No cleanup.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the show that's not only easy to watch, but comes in great flavor as well. Only from the Sports Box Network. I am Hamilton Michaeletta, along with Mike Wardy, Ryan, the Ranger Tard, and Terry Quinn. This is the 2020 AFC Draft Grade Show. Gentlemen, how's everybody today?
There's a lot of feedback going on.
I know. What is going on with that?
What's happening here?
There's a lot of feedback going on.
I know.
What's happening here?
Well, technical difficulties, folks, but we'll get through it.
There we go.
There we go. Okay, we're back.
Sorry. That's actually my fault, and I apologize.
So this is the 2020 NFL Draft Grade Show, AFC. Guys, how's everybody doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Now that I figured out why that was doing that, but I was able to fix it.
Good. So before we get to the festivities, we had a good show on Tuesday night talking about the NFC. If everybody was watching out there, hope you're in here tonight because we got a lot to talk about the AFC. And before we get going, Brian will give you the rundown.
Guys, listen, welcome to the NFL Draft Grades for the AFC on the Sports Box. Make sure that you are checking us out through our Facebook page, our Twitter page, at Sports Box Show, Instagram at The Sports Box Show. We're on YouTube. We're pretty much everywhere, just growing and growing. This Facebook page is like it's on the 2-yard line for 10,000 followers. So it's just really, really exciting. So jump on for the ride.
And definitely keep watching us. We've been getting a lot of good guests on lately, and it's going to continue. We got Jason Martinez coming on next week to talk some hockey with us. The following week, we have Ian Beckles, former Buccaneer player that was a lineman for them. We're going to have a big guest on soon. I can't reveal that yet. So when we get a date and lock that down, we'll tell you about that too. But Brian, take it away. Let's get going with the draft.
So, guys, tonight it is the draft grades for the AFC. Drew Trammell is excited, ready to go. He doesn't know, unfortunately, his Chargers we do the West at the end, so he's going to have to hang around all night. That's all right. Drew loves it. I want to get started tonight with a very highly rated draft. The Baltimore Ravens, pretty much, there's not a bad word to be said about this team, and I want to give it to Tony here first. Their first-round pick, Tone, what a value. Patrick Queen at 28th overall.
Listen, Patrick Queen, the Ravens, I mean, it just seems like they hit every time they take a first-round linebacker. He's a good fit for their scheme. He played inside, outside, all over that LSU defense, lined up everywhere, short tackler. Not many negatives. I mean, it was a little surprising to hear Jordan Brooks go ahead of him as far as like the linebacker. I think Simmons probably was the only one rated to go ahead of him. But I had Queen here in my mock just because it seemed like a perfect fit. It was like almost like a destiny, and it happened. So, I mean, when you're just talking about the first round grade, we're looking at an A+. Now, what they did in the later drafts is a little bit more of a head scratcher, but still solid players. J.K. Dobbins, good player out of out of Ohio State. I don't know how many running backs they need there. I mean, you have Ingram, and he has a lot of wear and tear on him, but he's not done. Then you also have Justice Hill there, who showed some promise, and you also have Lamar Jackson, who also masquerades as a quarterback at times. So you already have a solid backfield there. You add a very early pick into that mix at the running back position. I don't know if he's the person to get you over the hump against KC. Or whoever they're playing, because they did get embarrassed completely in the playoffs. Later on in the draft, you had Justin Mutabuki and Devin Duvernay. Now, Duvernay is a highlight type player, explosive with the ball in his hands. Mutabuki is a big defensive lineman and should add some bulk on there. I think all in all, they had a very good draft. Adding talent like Ben Bredston out of Michigan in the guard help out the offensive line. Even the safety I liked out of West Virginia. Geno Stone. Geno Smith. Sorry to give anybody respect of Geno Smith. Listen, he's a guy. Geno Stone is a solid player from left and right. Checks all the boxes except athleticism. So he is your classic football player, but he's not your classic combine star. So I think getting him in the 7th round, that actually might put another wrinkle in that great Baltimore defense.
Yeah, I think a lot of us had Patrick Queen going in that 20 to 25, 26, 27, 28 range. I think a lot of us were surprised he went to the Ravens that late. But I mean, the Ravens and linebackers, it pretty much goes hand in hand. He's only 20 years old. He had 82 tackles at LSU, which is, it's pretty good. He only allowed 5.5 yards per target in coverage, so he's a good run stopper. He's very good in coverage. That's a first-round linebacker prospect, and they grabbed him at the end of the first round. So it's almost like they got him as a second-round pick almost. He's an immediate starter. Dobbins is a great running back prospect. I mean, he had 2,000 yards as a junior at Ohio State. So, I don't think, like you said, Tony, I don't think anybody thought that the Ravens were a running back away, though, from winning that playoff game. Right. You have Ingram, you have Justice Hill, you have Gus Edwards. You know what I mean? I don't think that J.K. Dobbins gets them over the top. That to me, it was a great athlete, but questionable pick there. Like, if I had to grade their picks, I would say Patrick Queen's like an A and everybody else is a B. At that pick, Dobbins is like a C, though. You know what I mean? They didn't really need him there. But great athlete, but not the pick that they should have made there. But their draft overall was like a B+. They had a great draft.
Yeah, and it was funny. When the Patrick Queen pick was up, we were saying he was the next pick at like 24, 25. We were also no, Patrick Queen's got to go here. Patrick Queen's got to go here. And like you guys said, I'm surprised that he went to the Ravens. But really, the Ravens, when they pick, they do a great job of it. J.K. Dobbins was a little bit of a shock at running back because, like you guys said, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I mean they already have a ton of running backs as it is now, and you're picking a guy as a running back who's a good running back that high might be a little risky. But again, J.K. Dobbins is a good player. Just some notes I put down here. Queen and Dobbins, I mean, they're obviously very good football players. I think Phillips and Breedson were drafted for one of them to be Yanda's replacement. Since they lost him in I think one of them will do that. And Stone is, he's from what I read on him, when I read about him, he's a long shot, but he's a guy that can develop into a new age, kind of like a safety linebacker hybrid. But listen, nowhere else to go besides Baltimore that'll make him into something. Baltimore had a very good draft. I think I gave him a B as well.
I had them actually higher than that. And from a talent perspective, I had them as an A. I think they had honestly one of the better drafts in the AFC. The question on Dobbins is fair. It always feels like, for whatever reason, Baltimore has like 4 or 5 running backs. I don't know why exactly that is. Like, it's fine to spread the position around, but like at some point it's like diminishing returns. Why do you have so many guys at the position? And it seems like they're not there very long. Dobbins is a great talented player. The guy I'm interested in, and Tony brought him up, is Duvernay. Velarde, they had the kid, Miles Boykin, the kid out of Notre Dame there last year, that people kind of thought, might become something. And he was very spotty. Mm-hmm. Do you think that Duvernay's drafting here puts his roster spot at risk for this team?
No. I mean, sure Miles Boykin that much. He only had 13 catches last year for 200 yards. So, I mean, he had three touchdowns last year, but they didn't feature him that much. I mean, when's the last time a Ravens receiver really did much besides what Steve Smith there? But, I mean, a lot of those receivers don't really do much in the Ravens offense. But when you have Lamar Jackson featured as a runner now, I mean, who are the receivers that they have this year now?
Well, they got Hollywood Brown, who's going to be
as a deep threat. As their deep threat.
Yeah. Well, Hollywood Brown is a threat all over the field, to be honest with you.
What I'm saying is, do they have 3 studs? Not really, right?
No.
They're not going to go 3 wide receiver set on you and kill you to death. They're a running team. So right. I guess they want to go 2-3 running backs at you. And, Miles Boykin, he's good, but, he's 6'4", 220. But coming out of Notre Dame, yeah, he was a good athlete, but to draft a wide receiver,
It's definitely a run-heavy team. Like, definitely a run-heavy team.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're not looking to throw it 40 times a game. That's not.
You see how Mark Andrews excelled last year, the two tight end set.
Yeah,
I mean, they're going to pound it. They'll rotate the receivers in with Hollywood Brown. I mean, being the primary focus most likely, and and continue to focus and pound the running game. Duvernay, I think he's a good pick. I don't think he's going to be pressuring anybody for minutes. I think they'll give Boykin a little bit more of a leash.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, overall, I thought their draft was very good. Compared to some of the teams, that were out there, it's hard not to like a lot of what they did.
Very good draft.
And they tend to do it a lot. I mean, they tend to do this every year.
Yeah.
Next up, they had a really easy start. The Cincinnati Bengals, with the number 1 pick in the draft, made it very easy, although for whatever reason, they decided to take their full 15 minutes, basically, to make the pick everybody knew they were going to make.
Limelight, bro.
Joe Burrow. Earlier today, we found out that the previous quarterback, Andy Dalton, has no longer there. Requested his release, and he received it, probably on the quickest flight to Foxborough, Massachusetts, would be my speculation.
Yeah.
But Mike, Gillette, I mean, they hit, what I like about this draft is they pretty much hit every need I thought that they had. Because, again, Burrow, obviously, that's your quarterback of the future. The receiver at some point, A.J. Green's not going to be there forever. They added T. Higgins, who was thought to be a late first-round pick. They got him at the top of the second round. And then they spent a lot of the rest of their time, on their defense. Took Logan Wilson out of Wyoming. All in all, not really, and all they made was their own picks. They didn't have any additional or any less. They made all 7 of their own picks. I don't think you see that often.
They were picking at the top of each round, too, though.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, the Joe Burrow pick, you can't deny that. That was the only pick to take there. I mean, there was talk about moving down and getting some value for him, but they need a quarterback. They need a guy for the future. And Joe Burrow, Heisman candidate, points to that. Good pick by them. The T. Higgins pick kind of was a little bit fumbling to me, because at the time you had guys like Michael Pittman Jr., Robert Hunt, Ross Blacklock, Ezra Cleveland, and Denzel Mims on the board, where they could have went in a different direction, and they decided to go with another wideout when you probably have A.J. Green, I'm assuming, coming back, Joe Mixon, Tyler Boyd, John Ross. I mean, you're loaded at that, almost not loaded, but you have a lot of guys at that position right now. I would think they would go more to need, but to draft him that high, T. Higgins, I mean, I don't know about that. I'm not really like that pick. Logan Wilson, to me, doesn't look like he's going to contribute right away. He could contribute maybe, down the road with them. But, with me, I think that the picks that they made, they had some good picks for needs down the line. But in the beginning, I think the T. Higgins pick fumbled it for me. I gave him a C+.
Quickly. Or Mike, whatever.
I guess I'll go. Obviously, if they kept the pick at 1, obviously we talked about the possibility of them trading it or whatever the case is, but they kept it, so we'll go with it. Listen, he's a great prospect. He's walking into an underrated supporting cast. He's littered with skilled position talent. We know he's got an offensive-minded head coach. He's the favorite to win the Rookie of the Year. T. Higgins pick, I don't mind it. His profile is a little a 4.54, I think his 40 was. Listen, he had a great career at Clemson. I think he had 13 touchdowns this year. He's 21 years old. I think, I'm going to go a little bit the opposite, Mike. I think his success this year is going to depend on A.J. Green's status and John Ross's hamstring. I think that's the way he's going to find himself on the field, if something happens to those guys, or his success is going to depend on what happens to them. I think he could be like a nice second option in the NFL. I don't think he's going to be the man there. Like, I think that if something happens to those guys, that's how he's going to be productive. I thought that they did well in their draft. I thought that the linebacker, Logan Wilson's a good pick. I thought Gaither was a great pick, the linebacker. And the edge rusher, Kareem, was not bad. I really thought that them not trading, them picking where they did, I gave them an A for their draft. I thought that they did well where they stayed. That's my opinion on how they did. Good, Quinn, or whoever.
I'm up. All right, great. Listen, I don't think Cincinnati had a bad draft. Taking Joe Burrow was opening shut case, easy decision to kind of reboot their franchise. Logan Wilson, I really like that pick where they got him. Mike, despite what you said, I do think he steps in and becomes an immediate player. One of the more highly rated linebackers, just tackling machine. And to get him in the third round, I think that's going to be a steal for them and a team that needs it. And Akeem Davis-Gaither, the kid from App State, he makes plays all over the field. He's going to cause havoc. So I really like those picks. The question that I have and what I really question about them is the T. Higgins pick. Receiver was not a need at all. All right, not a need at all. Last year they took Jonah Williams who's supposed to step in and be their left tackle of the future and everything like that, which is good. So you put him with Burrow. The rest of that offensive line, though, they're starting a second-year guy, Fred Johnson. So you're starting Jonah Williams, who I don't think he had any snaps last year. A guy named Fred Johnson going in his second year. They're your tackles. You know who their guard is? Michael Jordan. Not last dance Michael Jordan or anything like that.
Not Michael B. Jordan either.
Yeah,
last
exactly.
Dance, baby.
So I mean, that offensive line really needed help, and for them to go into and take T. Higgins, who, depending on some people like him, huge catch radius, stuff like that, played in Clemson offense. Some people were kind of down on him. They weren't really happy with some of his interviews, some of his separation issues, stuff like that. And I don't believe he ran a good 40 time, if I recall.
4.54.
What is it?
4.54.
He's pedestrian. Everybody So, I mean, not bad for his size, and everything like that, but, he's not a burner. So with A.J. Green, Tyler Boyd, John Ross, see what you have still there. I really think it was a mistake to go with T. Higgins. And I think that could be a really potential if Joe Burrow starts the whole season and he lays on his back and gets rushed and everything like that, then that T. Higgins pick looks even bad because you still had Jones there. You still had Ezra Cleveland. I'm trying to think who else. I mean, even taking one of the top guards. Some help, just help the kid. T. Higgins doesn't help him, and that should be the number one talk. Listen, real quick, John Foster, thanks for jumping in, buddy. I'm going to tell you about the Bunatorny talk. No, not going to happen. Not going to happen here. All right.
Here's my question, right? We're looking at this team today. Are they that far away? Because, again, I guess it's obviously going to depend on what Joe Burrow does in his first year. But, Gil, I think you alluded to it. They have offensive talent around him. Mm-hmm. It's not as if they're rebuilding the entire wheel here. Mixon is there. Green's there for the time being. I don't know how long he's going to be there for, but he's there for the time being. You guys mentioned the receivers that he has. Tight end is whatever. But I don't know. I don't know that they're that far away if Burrow is who we have been told he's going to.
Or we thought they were.
Yeah, I still think the Bengals are. Yeah, I don't know about they're miles away anymore, but maybe they're a little bit closer. But Quigley said it best. You got to protect your investment. You draft a guy that high, you got to keep him upright. And him running around for his life and being on his back isn't going to get him any better or make him learn the offense any quicker. So the more protection you can give a guy like that to sit back there and learn. I mean, I'll pose it to when Dak Prescott came in. I know you're not a big Dak guy, but Dak in his first year was protected. And Dak sat back there and, learned maybe he didn't learn as much as you guys think he did, but he learned more about the NFL system than he did in college. And when you get time to sit back there, it's a big advantage for quarterbacks.
Yeah. I came into this draft saying that Joe Burrow was not a risk-free pick, and I do believe that. But, I mean, obviously, unless they were
that pick should have been in as soon as they started the draft.
Yeah, I don't understand.
That pick was made a week ago. I mean,
they're cross-state.
They're not giving up the advertisement dollars, guys.
They're cross-state rivals, the Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, the Cleveland Browns. Sorry, I was going to talk Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, those crosstown rivals.
Yeah, I mean, they're rivals with themselves. quickly, an interesting draft here. I thought they were going to go tackle in round 1, and they did. They got Wills out of Alabama. I like the Delpit pick for value.
Yep.
Your thoughts on what the Browns were able to do in the draft?
The Browns, starting off with Willis, I mean, they good value. He was, that top 4 tackles like we talked about already at the top of the draft. You get one of them, I think you're going to be okay. Willis probably might have been the safest pick. Delpit, for, 10 months, he was the number 1 rated safety across the board. Then the more they watched him, tackling issues, stuff like that kind of arose. But I think he's a good field general to kind of lead that defense. They got Jordan Elliott, who I really like on the defensive line there, so that should help out a lot. The Browns could have drafted 6 Hall of Famers this draft, and somehow you just feel like they're going to screw it up.
Yeah.
This all goes to hell in a handbasket if Baker Mayfield doesn't mature into the player. I think you cannot blame the organization, for doing everything they can. They got him a tackle. We talked about the Hooper signing. Who has, you have Chubb back there in the back. You have who's the kicker that they have, and I'm not talking about the field goal kicker.
Kareem Hunt.
You have Kareem Hunt, Chubb. So listen, you have to see. You can't see. For many years, we want to discredit the Browns organization. At times now, it's the time now where you have to kind of look at the players, hold them accountable.
Jump on, brother.
So we have our boy Odell, we have our boy Baker, you have Landry, you have Chubb, you have all these guys on, and I know last year before the season, I said anybody could listen, hedge the Browns. My favorite bet was Browns were not making the playoffs. It takes time for teams to gel and develop, throwing in new pieces. So you're looking at, it's their time to shine. This draft, I give them a solid B. Nothing kind of blew my mind of what they did, but they did make a solid pick and play on every, for most part.
Quig, I'm on board with you. I think Cleveland hit the right spot that they needed to hit. Did it blow me away? No, it didn't blow me away. But I think obviously the Wills pick was a good pick from Alabama. I was hoping he'd somehow find his way down to the Bucs, but I'm happy with who they got anyway. But that's fine. Delpit. I mean, like you said, he fell a little bit, but a fine player to get at safety. The Browns addressed the need to me as they went defense because their offense, like Quig said, is fine. I mean, I don't see them needing to load up anywhere on offense. This is their year to really produce offensively, and Baker Mayfield get his head out of his ass. So defensively, they had to go, and they did. A little bit kind of not shocking, but Harrison Bryant, the pick out of Florida Atlantic. Now I know he's a Mackey Award winner, but when you acquire a guy like I guess Hooper, I guess you're going to need a backup in there just to kind of mix it up with him, go back and forth a little bit. And he's a good tight end from what I read about him. So I mean, I'm going to do like you, Quick. I gave Cleveland a B+. Yeah, so they hit on all cylinders with it.
Let's not forget. I know we didn't mention it though. The Jay Conklin sign at right tackle. So I mean, no excuses.
Yeah. It's not quite the Bears, but how many tight ends are you going to use? Right? You still have David Njoku, who they used a very high pick on not that long ago. I like Harrison.
Do they still have him? I didn't.
Yes. Okay. He's there. That's first round pick. First round, but still a first round pick. Harrison Bryant just gave Hooper a ton of money.
And they soured on Njoku really quick too. I mean,
well, he was hurt last year, but I didn't see anything that would make you think, oh, this guy's done.
Well, you drafted him high. But.
I have no problem. I mean, where they got Bryant, I think it's very good insurance because a lot of times now, the way they ran the ball too in some of their sets, they want to run. And with the guys like Njoku and Hooper, and now maybe Bryant, see what he is, they could actually move over to the slot. So that 2 tight end set could become a 4 wide set very, very quickly with some huge offense, huge guys on the side. Or, I mean, it gives them creativity. And having 3 good tight ends when you're running a lot of 2 tight end set, it's not a bad thing because you always got somebody that does something a little bit better, and you kind of, you insure yourself for injuries.
I'll echo what you guys said. I thought that to start off, I thought they had 2 good quality trades. That kind of went not that they went unnoticed, but the trades got them, 4 picks necessarily for 3 that they sent away. The Delpit trade, 41 got them 44 and 160, which was Delpit in one of them. And then, the Wills pick was great. Obviously, they traded back and they still got him. Well, no, I'm sorry. They took him at 10, which he was still there. But listen, Mayfield's got some protection now, which is fine. Delpit, he was a post-hype sleeper. He needs to get healthy. He showed in his first two years, at LSU that he's good. And, he's a tackling machine. And like you guys said, if Harrison Bryant comes in there, you got Hooper and Njoku. He's only 21 years old. Okay. He's an underrated pick. If they feel like he's going to, be pretty good in their offense, maybe they could use one of these guys as a slot guy. You can't have too many weapons in an offense like that. Their offense is going to be pretty good, especially if I don't know, is Beckham going to stay there, or what's the deal there?
I'm trying to move him, but I don't know if anybody's going to take him.
I mean, why at this point? What's his deal? Is he's still signed there, right?
I think so. He's got 2 more years, doesn't he?
He's
what
under.
the hell? I don't know why you would ask out. They're getting weapons there. They're getting people there. Their offense is fairly loaded. Right?
He's not happy anywhere.
Their offense is fairly loaded, though. It's not like they're tanking.
Right.
Well, yeah. I don't know. I think they're a big question mark, as they always are. I'm not going to buy the hype this year. I'll tell you that.
I think that their draft was pretty decent. I'm giving them an A. I think their draft was good.
I have them as an A- as well. I'm just not buying into the team.
Well, right. Listen,
bad organization.
their draft was pretty good.
Next up to finish off the AFC North is the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I'm going to go here to Mike Velarde because their first pick, they didn't have a first pick. The first pick was traded to Miami for Minkah Fitzpatrick,
which isn't a bad pick at 18.
Mike Velarde has PTSD over that pick for the Bucs missing him.
Yeah.
They go with wide receiver Chase Claypool out of Notre Dame with their top pick in the second round. It was the 17th pick of that round. Mike, what are they getting in Claypool?
All right. Well, problem is they don't know. Well, at Notre Dame, he was between a tight end and a wide receiver. Okay. His problem is he's fairly fast. Okay. He ran a 4.42 40, and that's not tight end speed. Okay. That's a wide receiver type speed. But he had like 16 catches for over 20 yards. That's a breakout season for. It's not like a tight end season. Okay, he had like a 40-inch vertical leap. So you're getting wide receiver value in a tight end's body. So you're like in between on where to draft a kid at. So a lot of NFL teams don't know where to draft a kid like that at. So I guess teams are kind of like, well, where do we put this kid at? But listen, you're giving Roethlisberger another weapon, across from Juju Smith-Schuster. He blew up the combine, like I said. He's like 238 pounds. He's huge. He's one of the most polished route runners. He's physical. He has far more upside than James Washington, Deontay Johnson. So you're giving Roethlisberger a huge target. You're not looking at an Antonio Brown. Not to say that he's better than Antonio Brown is, but he has somebody to throw the ball to now.
Well, let me ask: can he be a legitimate number 2?
Absolutely, I think so.
I felt, and I'll give it to you guys. I felt their biggest question mark coming out last season. Well, they had a few, but their biggest question mark was: could Juju be a number 1? Because now that you're going up against number 1 corners, it's different. And
let's put it this way. Well, what number was Kmet? 43? What number did he get picked at?
I'll tell you right now.
I think it was 43.
I don't have that in front of me because ESPN puts them in the 11th
Sounds about right.
32, 43.
Who are you asking for?
Cole Kmet for the Bears. I'm assuming it was about 43.
Yeah.
Well, what I'm saying is like the Bears
Exactly.
stupidly just take Claypool at that point. You know what I mean? for a kid, why are you going to take a tight end when you have 10 of them? Take a kid like this where you could put him on the outside if you're going to take somebody like that. He has a huge frame. You know what I mean? Like, whatever. But anyway, I was bouncing around a little bit. But, this kid, he's going to push Jalen Samuels, and potentially, you have a kid who is definitely going to be this kid could get 5 to 8 passes thrown his way a game. You know what I mean? Roethlisberger, you got to just, you're going to have a kid who, you take him with your first round pick. You're showing Ben, hey, listen, you're going to have a kid to throw to. They only had 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 picks in this draft, and they didn't trade it all for anybody either. So, this is what the Packers should have did. You take a kid like that, not to say that he should have went in the first round. I'm saying you take a skilled person as your first pick. You have Rodgers help like they did for Roethlisberger.
Go ahead, quick.
It's all me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, can we not grade the Steelers draft without talking about Minkah Fitzpatrick? I mean, that's a home run.
True too. Yeah.
Right there. You know what I'm saying? So they're already playing with house money with getting Fitzpatrick with that pick.
Yep.
So that's a beautiful thing. And when he went to Pittsburgh, he really turned it on. I mean, I guess he was a little bit of a malcontent in Miami, but once he got to a chance where he did have a chance to win, even though Roethlisberger got hurt, the Steelers did a phenomenal job from top to bottom, actually being competitive all year, with some of the injuries they had. So I do like the Claypool pick before him because he is complimentary. I mean, they did bring in Eric Ebron. If they want Claypool to come out there, and Ebrom's another receiving tight end, as you can see in his time with Indy and Andrew Luck kind of made him a little bit of a superstar fantasy wise, but he does have skills when need be. Now, the question I have with the Claypool pick, and I guess more to the Steelers in general, they did not take a quarterback. You have 38-year-old Ben Roethlisberger. You have, so is this an indication that they're behind Mason Rudolph? I mean, who's shown not much, some immaturity, So, I mean, you're looking at, they went to Devlin Hodges last year too. So, I mean, I guess they're going to go one more year with them because all coming into this draft, the 49 pick, that's where Jalen Hurts was supposed to go and how much they like Jalen Hurts. And, I thought that might be a good fit to, where they could pick off. But so I guess it wasn't. So Claypool himself, I think he'll go in there and he'll be a good pick. Then McFarland at running back, it depends how healthy Connor is. They got an edge Rustler to help the line. I mean, they didn't do anything really spectacular except with the Minkah Fitzpatrick. I give them a solid B. To be honest with you, definitely a solid B. And I think the steal of the draft is still Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, and I factored in the Minkah Fitzpatrick too, just because I'm an angry Buccaneers fan too. But three interceptions for touchdowns this year when he got there. I mean, phenomenal guy at 18. You can't ask for a better player than that. The Claypool pick, I did see that they're going to try to. They don't know if he's going to go back and forth between a tight end or if he's going to be a wideout or whatever. I think he personally should be a wideout because you're going to need somebody to take some pressure off Juju. If Juju's going to be that guy to step up and be the man. All good number one receivers always have a guy on the side that are complimentary. They might not be the same stats, but they're complimentary, take a little pressure off Juju. And I think that's what he needs to really stand out and be a good player. So I think Claypool is a good pick there. And I think, just like quickly said, I was going to say Alex Highsmith, he's a good insurance policy for Bud Dupree because Bud Dupree's been getting hurt, injury prone, stuff like that. But it's a good player to mix in there as well. And then you talk about Anthony McFarland, who is going to be behind James Conner, who James Conner's always getting hurt as well. So they're set up as well at those positions. I thought they did well. I gave them a B-, the Steelers. I just honestly thought that they were going to go quarterback somewhere in this draft, whether it was going to be Easton from Washington or maybe even Fromm later on or somebody when they got past like where Hurts and everybody was. But I don't know what they're going to do. They're going to start quarterback next year and, do something because I don't think Rudolph and Hodges is the answer.
Where do you see this team right now? Like, are they a playoff team to you?
I don't know.
With the expanded playoffs, assuming we play the whole year?
They could be in no man's land right now.
I don't think you can count them out. I mean, for what they showed last year,
It's going to be close. Going to be close.
They listen. They fought their asses off last year, and I'm not a Mike Tomlin fan. I think he's overrated in a lot of aspects. I mean, it's a lot. When you have a all time great or villain or whatever you want to call Ben Roethlisberger, it's a lot easier to win football games with that type of player. But that being said, when Roethlisberger was out, that team fought. They stuck together, and Roethlisberger wasn't the only injury too, Connors and everything like that. So I think that I'm not going to count Pittsburgh out, especially with the division they're in. I mean, if they could steal a game against the Ravens, I mean, Cincinnati and Cleveland, they have a really good opportunity to take it down.
Second team in a row that did not have a first-round pick is the Houston Texans.
Oh.
So I'm going to preface this by saying I think Bill O'Brien is an idiot. And I think that colors every other thing I think about this team, because is anybody safe on that team? Like, is Deshaun Watson getting traded soon? Because it just seems like everybody just gets traded out of Houston and there's no rhyme or reason to it. But Tony, I mean, again, they didn't have a first-round pick because they used it, and they don't have next year's either, for Laramie Tunsil. That went to Miami. Then they traded David Johnson. They traded for David Johnson, and they ended up losing DeAndre Hopkins. I'm not sure that they got the better end of that deal for sure. They ended up with the defensive tackle Ross Blacklock out of TCU in the high second. I just don't know what to make of this team. I don't know what to expect from this team. They're just weird, and that's the only read that I have.
Weird.
Weird.
Yeah, I mean, I think even by the time the draft hit, we were all kind of in shock of what these moves were doing. Like, listen, wait, hold on. They traded Hopkins. I mean, it's very puzzling with what they're doing. I don't know if the basis behind that is money. If it was, then they gave Tunsil a ton of it. I think they make some of the highest paid offensive linemen annually by over $4 million. So it's like, you're where are you coming from with this? Specifically talking about the draft, and I know we included Micah Fitzpatrick in the Steelers draft, and it's hard to say, is Tunsil a first-round pick in this draft and everything else like that. It's safe to say he might be worth it if you're trying to invest that money in it. Blaylock, the DN from Florida, Jonathan Grenard. Charlie Heck is Andy Heck's son. I don't know if you guys remember him. He's Philly Eagles fans and Detroit Lions fans, but he did some things in the NFL for a while, so he comes with a decent pedigree. Their first three picks were solid. I'll give them that. They were solid picks. You can't sit there and get too excited about it. Blaylock was great value where he was picked. Same with the other guys. I mean, it's underwhelming. Draft grade for them, I'd say C. I'd say a solid C.
I just want to address Drew's comment here, right?
Yeah, definitely.
This is the thing. You guys know how I feel about running backs. I'm not very shy about it. It's you can go get them, you can go trade for them, you can sign them. That's the most replaceable part of your offense. So to me, to tell me that you're going to trade a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, who has been a stud for years.
Top 3 receiver in the league.
Right. To go get David Johnson and a 2, when David Johnson has looked terrible
and
the last couple of years. minus the 1 year.
Yeah.
Not good. And look at when that offense changed. Now with Kenny and Drake in Arizona, that was a very different offense than what David Johnson was doing. David Johnson had 1 good year and has been living off of it since. Okay. So that trade was abysmal with a capital A.
David Johnson looked extremely bad in the second half of last season too. He was definitely hurt. So it's one of them things, man. So what was the exact pick that they got? They got David Johnson and a 4th, correct?
I thought it was a 2nd.
The second next year?
David Johnson's 28 years old at a running back position. Well, what's he got left? Hold on.
No, it was horrible. But I'm trying to think. What was this? I thought it was David Johnson and a 4th they got.
I'm loading it.
Texans also sacrificed the original second round. Now it's second rounder.
Cards send the Texans a 2nd round pick in this year's draft and a 4th round next year.
Cards 4th round.
which is So it's basically they swapped fourths, David Johnson and a second for Hopkins.
So they were short the second round already.
Yeah,
because they only had 1 second round pick, so they were already short. So
this was traded for. So the second round pick, they had Arizona's pick, their own second they didn't have.
Right, they lost.
That
what trade did they lose that in?
That must have gone to LA for Cooks.
Oh God.
So, I mean, you just keep doing this.
That was another thing you didn't mention. They picked up Brandon Cooks, who's like a 5-time concussion winner. I mean, how many times is this guy going to get hurt in a year and you traded for him?
It's
to
just,
them, I think,
it's a mess.
I think that
a mess.
They think Hopkins and Cooks are here. They're not, but
I think this is a good. They're like the complete opposite of the Cleveland Browns. What the Cleveland Browns is doing at their front office seems like they're doing stuff the right way now. Finally, after all many years, Houston, Texas had some pieces in place that they were. You have Watts, you have these guys, and now all of a sudden, it's freaking creep. How did the players react?
Problem is they're winning a shitty division every year, 5 of the last 6 years, and they think that they're getting by doing it. They're getting by doing it in a bad way, and they're trying to, I don't know, reload on the fly, I guess.
And you gotta rebuild your team, build them up so they can move the needle a little further, not tear the whole thing down and start over again. Because that's how do you trade DeAndre Hopkins? That's crazy to me. Whether he's bitching or whatever, it's money, whatever. How do you trade a guy who's top 3 and he's got a great relationship with the quarterback, great chemistry and everything?
And what message does that send into the rest of the team?
Bill O'Brien's trying to be Bill. He's trying to be Bill Belichick, and he's not.
Well, Brian's an idiot.
Yeah, like Tony, I like the 3 picks they had, but their whole offseason and the trades that they had I think destroyed this team. I mean, they're going to have to get rebuilt and add some more pieces to this. I give their draft a C.
I thought that they reached quite a bit for Blacklock. He had apparently he had an Achilles injury.
Yeah.
And he was a redshirt junior, and he only had 3.5 sacks last year, and he didn't test very well at the combine. So I think that they kind of felt that they were getting a guy for value when I think that they kind of reached for him. I think they went the opposite way for him. But yeah, I'm kind of giving their draft like a C or a C plus maybe. Just if Blacklock pans out for him, maybe. The other 3 guys, Grenard, Heck, I think that they're okay, and I don't really like Reed that much. But like I said, they only had 5 picks because they traded away everything else. So just from that, I'm going to give them like a C plus.
If you're Watson, right? Oh, look at this! I have someone to add to the show. Matt Zuccarello.
Popping in. Good evening.
What's up, Matt?
How are you?
The drug cartel is back.
The underground. It's an underground back gate.
Air conditioning in the hallway.
Well, we're just about to make a change at team here. Our 3rd consecutive team that did not have a first-round pick, and that would be the Indianapolis Colts. However, the Colts get a lot of love on this show because with their first pick in the draft, which happened in the 2nd round, they took our boy, Michael Pittman Jr. out of USC. We just had his dad on the show the Tuesday before the draft, which was awesome. Velarde, they went 2 offensive players to start this, Pittman and Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor could have been a first-round pick. Michael Pittman, they said, and I heard, I think it might have been Reich saying this, they think he was the best receiver in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
They did say that. I think Pittman immediately goes into a starting role next to T.Y. Hilton. I mean, I think that's fair to say.
Compliments him very well.
Yeah, I think, especially with Phillip Rivers, I mean, in the offense that he had in San Diego, it was still San Diego, L.A.
Everybody is.
He's running, Pittman ran a 4.52. He's 6'4", 223, coming off 101 catch season at USC. He is 23. I mean, he's older for, coming out of college. I think if he wasn't 23, not that his age matters, but I think it kind of did at that point. The first round talent. People were saying that he will fill the Mike Williams role like that Phillip Rivers had. Going to their second pick, we talked about Jonathan Taylor. And me and Quig kind of felt the same way. A lot of tread on the tires. A lot of tread. Elite running back prospect, 4.39 speed. But trading up for a guy in the draft that early in the second round, you have Marlon Mack. You have Nyheim Hines. I didn't really like it. I didn't really like the trade up for it. I don't know. Their draft, it was okay. Blackman is okay. Grabbing Eason, obviously, there was a need at quarterback. It's not going to hurt him. Eason was talked about as, what him or Fromm, they were going back and forth to see who they liked more. I believe, didn't the FCS kid get picked before Eason? Jacob, whatever his name is, Marstrom, Jacob something. There was like an FCS kid that got picked before.
I don't know that.
I think he's right. Yeah.
The name.
No. Jacob Eason was picked in the 4th round earlier. You talking about James Morgan from FIU?
Yeah. Oh, FIU. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Eason was picked ahead of him.
Oh, I thought it was over around. I thought.
Let me check real quick. Eason was 3 picks ahead.
Morgan was 3 picks after Eason. The quarterbacks went Burrow, Herbert, Love, Jalen Hurts, Eason, Morgan, Fromm.
Okay. What does that tell you? I mean, not to get off base, but what does that tell you about how Morgan gets picked ahead of? I don't know. I just think a kid from Georgia, goes after a kid from FIU. I don't know.
Guys see different things, I guess.
But anyway, we'll get to that when we talk about the other team. But anyway, I thought Pittman was a great pick. I just thought I liked Taylor. I thought it was kind of to trade up there. I thought it was you're sending two picks away to get him there when you don't really need that. Marlon Mack is a stud. Hines is serviceable as a backup there. I know Frank Reich likes to do that. I don't know. I thought that was not really the need that they needed there. I gave him a C for the draft. Although I did like their moves, I just kind of felt like the need there wasn't at running back at that point.
Think it was BPA for them?
No.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe you guys disagree there. I don't know. I felt like he was going to that Andy Reid type. Let me load up on offense at this point. I don't know.
Yeah, I actually, we agree as far as like the type of player Jonathan Taylor is, but what we're going to disagree on, Mike, is that I think this is a perfect landing spot for Taylor. This is the type of team that you want Jonathan Taylor to do. As we also mentioned, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is a great landing spot for him too. Mm-hmm. He has a lot of beat the kid into the ground for 3 years, whatever time you have Rivers left. The talent's wise there. Marlon Mack is okay. He was banged up a little bit last year. Is he elite talent? No. But I think Jonathan Taylor overtakes him very quickly coming out the gate because I think he's just that much better of a player. So you're looking at giving Phillip Rivers kind of win now guys. That team, I mean, is outside of the quarterback, it might be top 5 team in the NFL. When you're looking at defensive line, offensive line, all the intangible stuff, and they knocked the draft out of the park 2 years ago. I think this draft is solid as far as like putting some luxury pieces into place, like a receiver in Pittman Jr., who's like I mentioned, great compliment to what they're doing down there. So it's, and then you have Phillip Rivers. I mean, I think this is, definitely all hands on deck will now first 2 draft picks. And I think it's smart because what they did in the past is they laid the groundwork for everything. And now they're at the spot now where they get the player. They thought Andrew Luck would be the player, but,
Right.
And I think, listen, I think Eason and Danny Pittner, where they got them in the 4th and 5th round, Eason is a highly regarded prospect. Who, he went to Washington, had, ups and downs there. But I think if he gets it together, could play behind Phillip Rivers. And even if he gets picked, they're a playoff team, close to a playoff team with Jacoby Brissett. So
poor accuracy and mobility is his issue.
Who's that?
Eason. That's what they're saying. He's got poor accuracy. Yeah. He's not very mobile.
Right. Well, listen, if he could learn how to work the pocket from someone like Phillip Rivers, then that's a great way to learn.
Rivers isn't very mobile either. Yeah.
So I think, listen, the first two pick, they're going to be really fun picks. They're going to be day one producing in the NFL, and draft grade overall. If I had to give him a grade right now, I have to give him a B plus.
Exactly I think the Colts did themselves a favor. You got to remember too, in the offseason they got DeForest Buckner from San Francisco. That's a good thing in itself, getting him. But Michael Pittman Jr., we talked about on the show too, that Michael Pittman, wherever he went, he was probably a top 6 wide receiver. He wasn't the best wide receiver of this crew. It was deep class, but I think whoever got Michael Pittman Jr., wherever they got him, was going to be not disappointed with him. I think he's going to be a good receiver. Like Tony said, he complements T.Y. Hilton very well. He's going to learn from a guy who's been there in the league for a while now. I think Michael Pittman Jr. is going to be good. I think the Jonathan Taylor was a little bit of a reach, but it works because even though he has a lot of carries, he doesn't need a lot of carries with Marlon Mack there in the beginning. And, you see how it goes, and he might have a little bit of mileage coming out of Wisconsin carrying the ball as much as he did, but you don't have to give him the ride. He's not your main back 24/7 there for now. I do like the Blackman pick and Eason as well. I mean, they're quarterback of need, and he comes from a Washington system where he had a good year. Overall, like I said, I like their draft. I give them a B minus.
Matt, I know you came in kind of late here. Any thoughts on the draft for the Colts?
Yeah, well, it's just funny, like just hearing you guys, and obviously college isn't my strong point, but Eason does have pedigree. I mean, I grew up watching Tony Eason with his limited play with the Patriots.
They're not related.
No, I just looked it up. It said it's his son, unless I read it incorrectly.
His dad's name's Tony Eason, but it's not the Tony Eason that played in the NFL.
Oh, okay. Well, then that was the next question I was going to. But Mike, to my brother-in-law, I'm reading on CBS their type of review, and it's funny. The two people you guys mentioned was Taylor. It says here on their website, best running back in the class, on par with Chubb and Saquon Barkley for athleticism and running skill spectrum. And then on the flip side, you just said about accuracy with Eason, it said we'll have one of the strongest arms in the NFL instantly and accurate too. So it's funny the way everyone's view on these college guys is obvious, and for so-called experts. But they said just their take. Pittman, they gave a B plus, saying great size and length. But it says he lacks the trump card, so plays to his size, ideal complement to TY. But overall, I mean, they liked a lot of their picks using their grades. But overall, I'd say I give them a B minus for their picks overall.
A lot of listen, when these guys go to the combine and stuff like that, like Fromm had a terrible combine from what everybody was saying. He couldn't throw the ball long. His accuracy was bad, but you watch him at Georgia the first couple of years, he looked like he was going to be a top 5 pick. So in a year or two, everything changes. And he fell way down the draft board. So it just well, what one scout says goes to the next scout, and then he just drops down the draft board like crazy. So
moving on, staying in the AFC South. Next up is the Jacksonville Jaguars, who themselves had 2 picks in the first round, and they continue to go defense. And
they had a lot of picks after that.
they did. No, they did. The Henderson at 9 and Clavon Chason at 20. Tony, I think I think you're very surprised that Henderson went where he did. I was maybe a touch surprised we went where he did. I was not surprised it took Clavon Chason, who I had penciled in going to Dallas. So. They keep adding defense. 3 of their first 4 picks, were on the defensive side of the ball. Is this BPA? Because they did have some needs on the offensive side of the ball, like a lot of them, and I don't think that they really did that great of a job in filling those.
So you're kicking this to me? All right. Well, listen, Jacksonville is an odd duck. I think they spent most of their time instead of preparing for the draft as trading Foles and trying to find a trading spot for Leonard Fournette. I don't think they're as offensively inept as we're kind of pointing out here. Minshew Mania was fun. I don't know if it's going to win a lot of football games, but it was fun. DJ Chark, D.D. Westbrook, them guys, they can get it done as far as a receiver, especially if Westbrook stays healthy. They added Chenault, the kid from Colorado, who was probably one of the most productive and fun to watch receivers, in the last few years in college football. I mean, West Coast, a lot of us guys out here don't step and watch it. His all fields concerns were the issue, attitude, stuff like that. Nothing really major to kind of, kill the kid's draft stock, but he did go a little bit further behind like a T. Higgins or even an Ayuk or depending on what teams liked a little bit better. So I think he's going to come in there and they have their offense set to an extent. So I don't think it was a huge question mark for them to go out there and not punt on offense, because they did get a tackle in Ben Barch from St. John's, small college kid who really good, and a late receiver they got too is Colin Johnson. So I mean, he's a guy from Texas that actually he does project well as far as. I think it was a bigger need because when they take C.J. Henderson, you're talking about a team that traded away Jalen Ramsey and they lost A.J. Bouye as well. So, I mean, getting C.J. Henderson was a key. I mean, he was 1 and 1A behind Okudah, who, everybody seemed to love. But, Henderson flew up the draft boards. So it's like a lot of talk, Brian, you're a Cowboys fan, myself as well, about the number 17 pick with Dallas. Both talked about C.J. Henderson and Caleb Von Chason being there. And you see kind of how it moved around. But I'm happy who they got either way. I think they really, the first 3 picks, they really knocked it out the park. Davon Henderson from Ohio State has potential, and Ben Batch. So I think they had a really solid draft. Not taking a quarterback of the future because I'm not really impressed with who was the kid they got from Jake Lowton. I'm not impressed with him at all. In Oregon State, he did have a couple of big games, but that's the WAC. So that's the Pac-10. So listen, how good they're going to be this year, I think they just need to go all in and tank for our boy Trevor Lawrence. And, yeah. But solid draft.
Pac-12 now, baby.
Yeah, Pac-12.
Hey.
Yeah, I agree with you. We kind of ripped Minnesota for having a lot of picks, but guess what? If there was a team to have the need for 12 picks, it was Jacksonville. Henderson fills a massive need, and he has elite upside for Jacksonville. He's not. Let's put it this way: he's going to be very good. But I don't think he was a can't miss product, but he needs to tackle a little bit better. But he's going to be a cornerback with upside. He's going to be very good for them, obviously. I think Chason is going to be the rock solid pick. I think he's obviously was the more needy pick because of Ngakwe's situation, but apparently they're not going to get rid of him and they're going to keep him. Now the question is he going to play for them? Which there's a lot of bad blood between him and the owners and the GM. So I don't know what the deal is going to be. But he's only 20 years old, and he's chased on, and he's got elite bend around the edge and pass rushing. So if he develops into a pass rushing tight end, defensive end, he's going to be very good. And Chenault is going to be an elite pass rusher too. And I think as a sophomore, he was wide receiver. He was very good. I think he had like almost 10 catches a game. So he was very good. So I agree with you, Quig. I mean, they had a really good draft. And like you said, they took a quarterback at the back end of the draft. I think Oregon State sucked this year. They weren't very good. And I think, they might be just trying to, he might even get cut probably at the end of camp or something. I give him a B+. They filled needs that they needed very well. I thought it was a good draft.
Christopher Wilhelm, welcome to the show.
Hello.
We're talking Jacksonville Jaguars right now. Do you have any thoughts on their draft?
Jacksonville Jaguars might be the dumbest team in football after trading the greatest Super Bowl winning quarterback of all time, Nick Foles. Other than that, I really don't have a lot to say about the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Mike?
Jacksonville, I think like Quig and Mike said, I think they hit their draft pretty well. C.J. Henderson, good pick, desperate needed, corner with the departure of Ramsey. You talk about Chason. You guys were big on Chason going to Dallas, but he's going to be a good fit there. It seems like Jacksonville, a lot of the years goes defense pretty heavy. I mean, they mixed in the wide receiver from Colorado this year. I don't really know that much about him, but I'll take your word for it, Quig, that he's going to be a good player for them. Took another wide receiver late and took a tight end. But other than that, they went defense, and then took the Oregon State quarterback, Luke Lutton. I don't know that much about him but I think Jacksonville needed all these picks. I don't think they needed to move around like a lot of people probably thought they did. But it's going to be an uphill struggle for Jacksonville. I think they're going to be a bad team this year, and maybe they get lucky and get Lawrence this year. But I still give them a B- for their draft.
Chanel was a guy I know that Hav wanted for the pack at 30 originally, as he kind of went through this. They are an interesting team. I gave them actually an A- because I thought that they did very well in round one. And again, I'm looking at it from the standpoint of how much talent did you add. Chanel could have been a late first round pick. He wasn't, but he could have been. And Henderson, again, like Tony said, could have been, if not for Okuda, the top corner in the draft. And I thought Chason was going to be a Cowboy. Does that mean that I like him more? I don't know. Maybe I just conditioned myself to thinking he was going to be an opposite guy to DeMarcus Lawrence, but they do need a pass rush there. So, again, I would have personally looked for offensive playmakers because I need them. But if they want to go defense, they want to go defense.
Right, you said that a couple of times. What's wrong with the playmakers that they have now?
I don't like their quarterback.
So they can't do that. They're not fixing that in this draft with the 9 pick.
They then move up, do something.
Quarterback is really
I don't like the quarterback. The running back is absolutely crap, and I'm not going to go draft one at 9, obviously, or even at 20. But
they're stuck with them. They're stuck with the running back.
I mean, is D.D. West a guy you could think could be a legit 1 or 2 in this league? I mean, I thought legitimately they could go wide receiver. I did.
DJ Chark did work last year.
Translates out to me to be that number 1 guy. You got a bunch of mid-level guys, and you'll do what you can with them, but you need that. If you're not going to have an elite quarterback, you better give them talent around him. And Gardner Minshew is not elite, to say the very least. That's all. And you're right. I do think they're tanking for Trevor Lawrence. I think there's a couple teams tanking for Trevor Lawrence, and this is one of them. They absolutely could end up with that pick. No question about it. Any remaining thoughts?
I'll keep mine short and sweet.
Yes.
Henderson, some people actually said leading up to the draft that he might have been even rated higher than Okuda going into that. The one concern for the reading that I've done on Chason and Chenault is injury concerns. So if they're able to stay on the field, seems like a good draft. I'd give them a B overall with all their picks. But yeah, definitely if they get an upgraded quarterback over, if they draft Lawrence next year or get a top quarterback, that would be where they should be focusing on, especially with the Bortles debacle and then the Foles debacle this most recently. So,
guys, real quick, if both quarterbacks, I mean, it's probably a stupid question. If both quarterbacks come out this year, if they were in the same class, Burrow and Lawrence, who goes 1-2?
Lawrence.
Lawrence. Shit. That's a tough question right there.
I still think Burrow goes 1.
Who has the pick?
It's
I mean, that
close,
really has a lot to do with it.
Well, I'm just saying, obviously, in hindsight, Burrow throws 60 touchdowns this year. I'm just saying, does it make it that much harder if Lawrence didn't have really a good year this year?
No, not what they expected. I mean, a couple teams, and Joe Burrow came out of, out of nowhere. And it's funny you bring this up, Mike, because I was thinking about this the other day because I think I mentioned something maybe in one of our other shows and if you look back at the last 3, because I think we were talking about the Redskins. If you look back in the last 3, the last 2 draft classes and next year with Fields and Lawrence, I mean, where would you stack those guys up? I think it's quite possible that, Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow are maybe the top two in that class.
Yeah, but Drew says Lawrence easily. Okay, then where's Chase Young go then?
Well, I see. I think the problem is that it's hard to say. Is it Trevor Lawrence after this year, or is it Trevor Lawrence after next year? Because he put up the greatest season in college football history, Joe Burrow. So it is kind of hard to compete against that. But I think it goes, one season versus three. That's where I think you really get the argument. I think if it was after this draft, no one's taking Lawrence over Burrow. But if you give him the third year and it's equal, and it's the 1 year of Burrow and the 3 years of Trevor Lawrence, barring what he does next year, I think it's a little bit more of an argument. But I'd say Lawrence just because he has.
That's tough, man. It's still
He's
tough.
the chosen one from
It's
18 years old.
It's 1 and 1A.
It's not Lawrence easily. I disagree.
No, and especially for the limited that I watched, like that's why I didn't like Darnold with the Jets picking him a couple of years ago because it's his last game. I know it's only one game watching him, but I didn't like the way he threw 3 picks off his back foot. But the big thing between Burrow and Lawrence going into the championship game, I would have said Lawrence easily. After the championship game, his performance on the big stage, I would say Burrow because you saw like Lawrence couldn't carry the team on his back and he was off. I mean, it's just one game. I know you can't grade these guys on just one big game, but in a clutch game like that, Burrow had a better game than Lawrence. And I look at him.
If it's Cincinnati, I think it's very hard to get off of Joe Burrow. Very hard. Hometown kid,
Mr. Ohio.
Yeah, it's very hard to get off Burrow there. Now, I'm not saying it's the right choice, especially depending on your OC and what you have around. But, is he a one-hit wonder?
So I guess here's the next question. And the guys that are older, it's your question, but the guys that are older. So if Lawrence and Burrow were in the same draft, would that be the equivalent or the closest thing to RG3 and Andrew Luck or Ryan Leaf and Peyton Manning?
No. I think real quick we'll go back to Manning and Ryan Leaf. I think Manning has a more elite grade than either of those guys. Ryan Leaf, although there was a debate because it was more just like talent. And I don't think Burrow did it long enough to be compared in that group. The RG3 Andrew Luck draft class, which just talk about those two. I guess we're not going to talk about Goff and Wentz, but
No.
Without the other Manning and Rivers too.
It could be. I mean, listen, Andrew Luck was probably one of my favorite quarterbacks coming out of drafts in the last 20 years. So I don't see Lawrence or Burrow doing it because I don't think they've had the pedigree as a Manning and Luck. So it could be in the same conversation, though, definitely. It's not out of realm.
Well, next up, we are going to – where was I? We're going to finish off the AFC South with the Tennessee Titans. I will start with Mike Galetta here. Mike, there was one pick that stood out to me for them, and that was their second-round pick of Christian Fulton. Maybe I'm the idiot, but I thought he might be a first-round pick. So to get him at the very end of the second round, I think is a coup. Isaiah Wilson out of Georgia, again, the tackles were the tackles. If they wanted one, they took the best one they thought they could get at the time. But I think Fulton is a nice ad where they got him. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily like the team that much, but I think that's a good pick.
Well, Fulton, I mean, from the stats that I got, 43.6% completion rate over the last 2 seasons, which is pretty damn good. He ran a 4.46 40. He's 6 foot 197. So, I think it's a good pick there for a little bit of safety help or a little bit of cornerback help that the Titans could use. I really like Wilson. That's a really good pick. I mean, 6'7", 350. He's got size. He can, he can do a good amount for them protecting Tannehill, protecting their investment. Again, I always get back to protecting their investment. But I think Tennessee did well. Even you brought in Evans behind Derrick Henry, but he could take the place of Deion Lewis, who I think is going to be on his way out. So I think Tennessee did themselves justice this year. I give them a B-.
I guess I'll go. Yeah, I mean, I'll start with Christian Fulton. I mean, I would have to assume that he's going to start if Logan Ryan's not going to be there, I'm assuming. so he'll start. And I think he's a little bit more physical than Logan Ryan was, but he's undersized in an undersized secondary. I think he's a little bit of a sleeper, as we talked about when we were doing our mocks. And I actually liked the running back that they took, Darrington Evans from Appalachian State. I think he's going to be a nice little compliment to Derrick Henry. Obviously, we talked about them signing Derrick Henry and how much Brian T loves giving money to running backs.
Love it.
And
he doesn't like any positional positions.
And
you should put 11 quarterbacks on the field.
Yeah. And
I won't pay any of them.
how much it gets Brian T hard.
2 or 3 down now, right? Nobody can get tackled.
It gets Brian T so hard when they give running backs money and sign them to long-term deals.
Yeah, I think it's great. Nobody ever regrets that.
I give the Titans a B. I mean, they didn't have a lot of picks, but I thought that they hit on the first 3 at least.
Yep.
Really? Thoughts on the Titans?
I see. I think the Tennessee Titans just stuck with their identity. I know the 3rd round pick is a premium pick. They went back with the running back, little 1-2 punch combination. That's how they're going to win football games. I mean, it got Ryan Tannehill paid a lot of money. Okay. For what he does for that offense, and they got playmakers on offense. Okay. They drafted the best wide receiver in last year's draft. Derrick Henry's an absolute monster. And I just can't imagine what the Cowboys would be like if they went Ramsey and Derrick Henry in the 2nd round. But hey,
it worked out.
Yeah, the Tennessee Titans are they run the football. They address that need, and it's not really a need, but they just capitalized on it, and they addressed the offensive line again in the 1st round. So I give them a what's everybody else giving them? C+.
I have Tennessee with a B.
Tennessee with a B. Listen, the thing is with Isaiah Wilson is at the time I had no issue with the pick. Christian Fulton following how he did in the 2nd round, no issue to pick, because if they swap those guys, I thought that would kind of be a little bit of a coup, so to speak. But the thing with Fulton too is if you look at the kid, he played at LSU. He was against the Bama receivers, did very well. He really has some of the grades that Mike pointed out, the completion percentage, his coverage grade, all these other stuff. He has the numbers, his thing. He's going to be a really good pick for Tennessee Titans. Wilson is a very potential pick. I do think that they took Darrington Evans a little bit too high. Willie said that it's their identity, and if they do, Derrick Henry does go down, it's going to be hard to replace him. And honestly, though, Evans isn't really going to be a replace. That's a huge step back. I think that they could have took like a Joshua Kelly or a McFarland might have ranked a little bit higher as more of an everyday true replacement. But Evans, I do like maybe to take Deion Lewis's touches away. Solid yet spectacular draft. So we're looking, C+.
I mean, it's the Titans probably gained a ton of new fans drafting the quarterback from Hawaii. Okay,
nice. Oh, my thunder.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Matt. Well, go ahead. Okay. You can have it back.
No, just I actually watched him a couple of games. And he went in the 7th round, and that's not a bad pickup for.
Yeah, Timmy Chang.
What's that?
Timmy Chang.
No, to back up. I mean, Tannehill though too. If he goes down or if he has a couple of games, the kid was he led that team. I watched him in that crazy offense in Hawaii though too. So should be interesting though too with what they did. And the only concern I have for Fulton is just his size though too, going up against some 6'4" NFL pro receivers though too. So
that's when I
give him a B minus.
Last bet in at midnight when you're chasing.
The only thing I'll say with the quarterbacks from Hawaii, because I was big on Colton Brennan when he came out, when that year they were undefeated, and they went into Georgia and got waxed. The quarterbacks in Hawaii throw for a ton of yardage. I mean, him, Chang, McDonald, they all throw for a ton of yards. They get to the NFL and they struggle. So I saw a little bit of McDonald too, a late night game every now and again, but I mean, I don't know how he's going to compute to the NFL.
Tennessee is just, I don't know. I didn't like him last year. Maybe that's just me. I don't know if I'm just
probably.
I'm not ruling that out. over to the AFC East, we will start with the Buffalo Bills because nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
Mhm.
They didn't have a first-round pick, but they kind of did because A.J. Epineza from Iowa, the defensive end, going into them pick in the second round, I thought was very good. He was somebody who I thought might sneak into that back end of that first round, that early second. They got him nice and late. They didn't have a first-round pick because they traded it to Minnesota for Stephon Diggs, so they did get some offensive help there. Velarde, Epineza, where they got him, I mean, and Fromm later, whatever, but that's a great pick. That's a great pick because, again, I think universally he should have been at least 20 picks higher.
Yeah, I mean, he ended the first round, early second, and they got him at 54. Obviously, it's great value. It's not an exciting pick. He's 5'9". He's an edge or an inside, depending on the personnel of the team. He's a bruiser, and he's going to play, that role. But listen, he slid past a lot of teams. He's the type of kid. He's going to give you some athleticism. But teams were saying that he rightfully slipped into the second round. He ran a 5.0440. I don't know if that's necessarily great for an edge rusher. But they're saying he has a lot of raw strength and craftiness as an effective run defender. I don't know if the people saw something at his pro day or his combine that kind of made him slip down the board a little bit, but it kind of could have scared some teams off. We were talking about him, possibly the Ravens at the end of the first round, teams like that, and he definitely took a tumble down the boards. So I don't know what scared teams off. Maybe that. Zach Moss in the second round. We talked about that, alongside Devin Singletary. Obviously it's gonna help in the backfield a little bit. I don't know the value there. And listen, they took Jake Fromm. Okay, we talked about this as well a little bit. Obviously they have Josh Allen there at quarterback. Maybe they'll try and I don't know if they want to use this pick, in case Josh Allen goes down and they have another young quarterback behind him. Listen, like we said, Fromm is young, went to Georgia. He's played in big games before. I don't know what they're trying to do here. I don't know if it's just another young kid to have to do something with. Obviously, they had nice wide receivers. They got Stephon Diggs, John Brown, Cole Beasley there. I don't really know. I don't think that they drafted bad. I have him at like a B-. Listen, Fromm's going to be a backup quarterback. I don't see him making waves in the NFL. I don't know if you guys agree with that. He was drafted as a backup. It's not like he's going to go start anywhere, I don't think. I see him as a career backup. Whatever. They're the Bills.
Quick.
They don't get excited about much.
The love fest for everybody all of a sudden has for the Buffalo Bills when Tom Brady
He left all of a sudden.
is a little surprising to me. Epineza at second round, good value at a need. He was inconsistent at Iowa big time. He'll have a great game, disappear, kind of turn it on down the stretch a little bit, but I don't know if he's ever going to develop into a star out there. The Zach Moss, solid, but you have Singletary there, so I don't think that was a need. Who else they got here? Davis might be someone who could really crack the rotation with, because he has some to work with besides Stephon Diggs, because I don't think John Brown, Cole Beasley, they're not going to, they're not true number two receivers. So he'll have an opportunity to play there. Dane Jackson was a little bit of a surprise that they were able to grab him in the seventh round, who, he did have a day 3 grade a lot of times, but, a little bit higher than round 7. So all in all, okay draft. I don't think it was a home run, with the Epinesa pick, because he really – I'm a little bit more down on him than I think a lot of other people, because I think he could kind of go off the board. And Zach Moss is going to be solid, but with Singletary there, it'd be nice to see him get – plus, I mean, that we know their best running back is Josh Allen, so. Yeah.
Matt?
The one surprising thing, and when we get the Jets, I was not too high on it. Besides the other picks were good, was how do you any team you get most of the guys in free agency? The big surprising pick, though it was only the 6th round, was, and didn't have a ton of picks, was picking a kicker from, I guess it says it's Georgia Southern, I'm presuming. So it's never usually good unless the guy's a stud kicker like a Janikowski from years past, why you draft a kicker in any round besides maybe the 7th or pick him up as free agent. So overall, I gave them a C+ for their draft though too, and Fromm, like I said, he came up, he played in some big games, but same thing. A couple games that I saw him and watched him towards the end of his college career, just didn't overly impress me with his throwing ability, and also just leading his team to victory when they needed an offensive pick me up from the quarterback. So that's what I gave them a C+.
So to piggyback off of that, I'm proposing this to everybody. Tyler Bass, that's who they drafted as a kicker.
Yeah.
He only made 20 of 28 field goals. So why does a kid like that get drafted?
Why? I don't understand it at all. I mean, listen, kickers seem to change teams every year, right? I mean, it's like a new kicker.
Yeah, I think Gostkowski was even drafted in the 6th or 7th round.
Well, no,
I'm talking about a guy who's a solid kicker. I mean,
I just want to know why a kid who missed 8 field goals gets drafted.
Yeah,
And
good for him.
And
Good for him.
Didn't even get drafted.
He had a good hype video.
I don't understand it.
A good hype video.
Yeah, I know all about that. Moving up in the 2nd round to get a kicker, and then cutting the following year. So yeah,
because Blankenship missed the last kick of his career. I mean, is that why he didn't get drafted?
It's a weird move. Like Buffalo is a tough place to play, weather-wise, stuff like that. But it's not like a kid is used to kicking in bad conditions, down in Georgia. So, it's a head scratcher. I think he was the highest rated kicker on a lot of people's boards.
What he kicking for 500 kids every day?
Yeah, not much pressure in there. So it's puzzling.
Well, just so we don't review a lot of the same stuff we went through, I'll just. I like what Buffalo did. I'm not going to give them an outstanding grade. I think they handled a couple things. I like the Moss deal. I think that's it's good to have Singletary and Moss in there mixing up a little bit. He might not be the same back as Singletary, but it's good to have a young running back in there running the offensive show as well. I gave him a C+.
I'm in the B range. I just like the value. I mean, the value I think when Epinesa sets it for everything. Next up, the Miami Dolphins, who had 3 first-round picks. And the question was, would they use them all? Yeah, they did. Ended up with Tua at 5. The speculation, obviously, was that he wasn't going to go at 5, that they were going to take Herbert because whatever the medical was. That was obviously a smokescreen.
They traded 26. They moved back.
Right. Still made 3 first-round picks, though. I'm not going to pronounce that guy's name. Not going to try. Nothing I can say about Igbano Bennett. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, Austin Johnson picked the tackle at 18. Tony, were you surprised it was Tua after everything that we've heard that they weren't sold on Tua? And after all of this, tank for Tua, not tank for Tua, Tua doesn't even go in number 1.
No, I think that the Tua pick was the pick that they kind of had to make, even if they. I think the whole love for Justin Herbert was a little bit of a smokescreen to kind of keep people off the Tua scent. But the 2 things that Tua does, it gives them a star down there. He has a little bit more star power. He played at Alabama. They're familiar with him down there in that area. instead of bringing an Oregon kid. So you're talking about all the stuff off the field. I think Tua was the definitely easy choice to kind of sell to your fan base and rebuild around. The quarterback isn't where I would go with this draft entirely for them. I think I discussed it already, but they picked a pick, and you understand why they did it. On the field, he has more potential, higher ceiling than Justin Herbert in today's NFL. But it's a bigger risk, So I think they swung for a fence a little bit, and we'll see if they hit a home run. But I do like the Tua pick for them. So do you want to talk about the rest of the draft, or you just want to specifically talk about Tua?
No, whatever you, Mike. Your thoughts on the draft, or whatever. Whatever you think. Whatever you like.
Yeah, just not. We could talk about him and then whatever. But like Tony said, I mean, I think if they go in a different direction here, or if they trade the pick, I think Tua was the pick. Listen, I think that we're all in agreement that he doesn't even play this year. If there's a season, he sits out the season. They have to make sure that if he comes back, he 100%. Probably the best thing for Miami is if there is not a season, or if there's only half a season, he probably shouldn't even play. I think that Austin Jackson was a great pick. I think that the cornerback that they got, I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name, he was good as well. I think that a lot of the guys that they took, listen, they're investments. They're trying to protect Tua. They're trying to, like Tony said, swing for the fences with a couple of these guys, and they're investments. They had picks, and it's almost like they had to. It's not like they're what's the word I'm looking for? This was the draft that they had to hit on some of their picks, but they had to hit on like their first 2 or 3. And Tua was their guy that they had to hit on. Like Brian, I know that you're a big person in, let's trade the pick, let's get assets, let's see what we can get. I think that this was their only choice at this point. They had to make this pick. They had to take their guy, because let's say they trade with the Chargers. Okay, yeah. Let's say that the Chargers tried to get in front of them and take Tua. Do they really take Herbert? I don't really think that they even take Herbert at 5.
But I'll give you this.
Or else at that point.
I'll give you this, right? Let's just don't even trade anything, right? Let's just say that they do something else at 5. Assuming the Chargers stick to their board and take Herbert at 6, is there anybody down to 18 taking a quarterback realistically?
No.
I'm not saying I know anything more than I'm just speculating this.
Yeah, we looked at that after 6. It was a big drop off that nobody needed a quarterback. So
doesn't mean anybody won't trade up to get him.
At that point, you have no idea. The friggin' Eagles could take him at that point. You don't know.
And let's not the fall might not be as far as you think, because Jacksonville was sitting there at 9. And they might, that would have been a very easy place for him to wind up.
Or the Raiders could have grabbed them too. I mean, who knows? I mean, they're not big on Carr. He's only got 1 year left on his deal. They could have grabbed him. Who knows?
Yeah.
If the draft showed us anything after the first couple picks or first 3 picks, especially with the Jordan Love and Jalen Hurts next to, quarterbacks should go anywhere. And can leave your mind kind of like, what the hell? So somebody like Tua, franchise looking to instantly rebrand their identity, it is a very simple pick.
Right.
I have 2 points on Tua that I'll ask all you guys to do. If Tua was healthy, had no injuries, would he have went higher? That's my first part of it. And the second part is, does he have the body, the pedigree? 6 foot 217. I mean, Herbert was a 6'5", like 230. So I'm just looking at all these quarterbacks, even Burrow though too. Just these fragile young guys. I know they're going to build and still gain more strength or muscle, whatever you want to call it. But I'm just afraid of a guy coming off what I consider a major injury, and how many? I mean, it's nothing to do with his arm, but how many guys like you're trusting a kid that's in his early 20s coming out of college that just had a major injury? So that always scares me though too. I'm just curious to see if he had another big year and stayed healthy the whole year, if he would have went higher in the draft, or even higher than Burrow, though, too. So just those body types. And again, I know the quarterbacks are different than what I was used to growing up, but like Herbert 6'5" compared to the guy 6 foot. So he's almost like what was Flutie 5'10". I mean, so I don't know. I don't see it. Hopefully, he's not a bust, but I'm just concerned with his injuries and his height and just his fragileness, I guess, is a lack of a better term.
Going into the year, it was tank for Tua. So before Burrow had this year that he had, it was tank for Tua. So, I mean, he was the number one pick. I mean, listen, Alabama, you had Jerry Jeudy, you had the receiver. They were the number one team, and then Burrow has the year he had. I mean, Tony, what do you think?
Well, as far as the Tua thing, or just in general? I mean,
yeah. Listen, he is coming off a major Listen, I listen to Rex Ryan, I listen to all these guys, and he seems to think. Listen, this guy's had 4 or 5 major injuries. He is fragile. He definitely is fragile.
It is a risk. His injuries and everything. That's why we said you better build up that offensive line. But I think it's a risk that they listen. If I said this before, if I'm the Dolphins, I don't touch a quarterback with these picks. I stay with Fitzpatrick, I stay with Rosen, and I use these picks to just create a better team. And then I go after Lawrence or Justin Fields next year. All right. Because I like them both a lot more than like Tua. They don't have the injury risk. Hey, this time next year we might be saying, Justin Fields is injury risk because he, broke a hip or whatever. So you don't know that. But they're looking at the position that the Dolphins are in. And if they were set on taking either Herbert or Tua, I'm going with Tua because of what I talked about earlier as far as the rebranding and being the face of the Miami Dolphins and my franchise. That's why I want. Is he short? Yes. So is Drew Brees. So is Russell Wilson. Is he thin? Sort of, kind of. I mean, Joe Burrow is like 6'3", 220 pounds. So he's 3 inches taller, like about 5 pounds heavier. Weight and stuff like that. I mean, there's huge questions with Tua. Durability is number one. And it's a roll of the dice, and I think that that's kind of like the key of what the Dolphins did in the draft this year too, because I'm looking at their picks. Austin Jackson, inconsistent, but I think he was a solid pick where he is. Then you go have the kid from Auburn, the cornerback, Noah Ibegananwe.
Nicely done.
I coached a lot of Nigerian kids, so I got a little bit of it.
I watch a lot of hockey. That's a lot of hockey, man.
Yeah, very, very inconsistent as well. A little bit all over the place. I think he was. He's good in press. He has the physical traits that you want in a player at that position, but he's a raw cornerback. He has to learn it. So we'll see if he's able to kind of convert that to the next level. There are some questions with those next 2 picks. The Robert Hunt pick, I think, is probably the best interior offensive lineman in the draft, and I think it's something that really solidified. Later on, they got Curtis Weaver, Boise State top edge rusher, a fun kid who might be, fantasy relevant or something like, when we kind of guys come out of nowhere is the quarterback that they took, Malcolm Perry, out of Navy. I mean, he could run. He is that, jack of all trades, weapons. Maybe they're a little Taysom Hill light or slashed or something like that. So there's a lot of upside there with these picks. I don't know if there's a true safe home run pick though. So, I think they did the right thing with taking Tua between the 2 quarterbacks. So, I'm not going to knock Tua. I think I'll give him a solid B.
One thing you said, Tony, that really stuck with me because I think it's dead on right. You go back to what the Redskins did. The Redskins draft last year set their pick this year. They couldn't go quarterback again because they had committed to Haskins the year before. I am not comparing Tua to Haskins by any stretch, and I want it to be taken that way. But no matter what happens, they made the pick for next year too. Because if they're 2-14 or they're whatever they are, they're not going to take Fields. They're not going to take Trevor. They have to. So to your point,
The
Who is-
Redskins.
The Dolphins.
I was going to say, 'cause
Dolphins.
if the Redskins are 2-14 next year, they're taking Lawrence.
No. What I'm saying is, but the Redskins could be a quarterback this year because they took a quarterback last year.
Redskins are the worst in the league. They're taking the best quarterback next year.
But
And
fine.
it's a mistake not to do that.
To Quigley's point, though,
Yeah, I know.
they didn't have to go to a year. You could have gone through the year, unless you were in love with the guy. And again, I get it, right? But
yeah,
unless you thought he was better than whatever you get last year, whatever you get next year, for sure, then you made that call, and this is what you're stuck with, no matter what. Had they done anything else, gone into the year with Fitzpatrick, and really, again, I think Josh Rosen's getting a huge shaft here everywhere he goes.
I love what I saw with, if you guys, I know you guys, some of you guys found out of Vegas and stuff like that. Josh Rosen to start week 1 is plus 2,500.
That's crazy.
Listen, if he's still on the roster and somebody hasn't made a deal for him, like the Dallas Cowboys, hopefully you guys are listening for a backup quarterback. I think that's great value there. And does Tua win more games than Fitzpatrick next year? Probably not. Yeah. And if he does, if they do show improvement, because like a team like New England takes a huge step down, the Jets don't develop as you expect. Buffalo, Josh Allen keeps throwing balls into the dirt. I mean, it is wide open. So I mean, they could start Fitzpatrick and be in a contention to actually be AFC East champs. As crazy as it sounds.
Yeah.
Matthew.
Yeah, that was the other pick that I like that Tony mentioned earlier is because I watched him a lot of his games with Perry though too, and a 7th rounder that they couldn't can't get hurt with it, and he could be used in a couple different scenarios, like I said, like a Taysom Hill type of thing where he could throw, maybe a receiver, be on the jet sweeps and things of that nature though too. So that was one of the dark horse. I watched that guy if he makes the roster to another winner for military academy team and the way he played. I like a lot of his games. They're undersized quarterback in college, 5'10", $186. That was an interesting pick, and to get him in the 7th round, a winner like that, a leader on the team, I think could for the long term be beneficial to them.
I gave him a B. I didn't love their first round. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it, and I should have loved it given there were 3 picks. I gave him a B.
B-. That's my grade. I forgot to give you.
Easy as that. Next up, the New England Patriots.
All right.
As the waves of change continue to flow through Fox. Kyle Duggar.
Shit show.
Quigley, you liked it, right? You thought Duggar was a great pick, if I recall correctly, from the night of the draft.
Kyle Duggar?
Yeah.
A little high.
What's that?
I think it was a little high.
Duggar physically is one of the most impressive safeties in the draft that was available. Small school. I mean, I'm not going to knock Belichick in those kind of developments. I do like the pick, maybe a little bit early, but as you see, it was a draft where a lot of guys in the 2nd round, or were you projected early 1st or 2nd, a lot of guys fell a lot further than anybody expected. So I mean, Duggar at 37, no issues with it at all, to be honest with you. You feel differently, Attard?
Again, I mean, they traded down. That's what they do. I think they only made one of the actual picks they actually had. Every other pick they had traded for. It was just questionable to me. The Michigan kid I had no problem with. I think he's going to be a nice fit there. They took a couple of tight ends 10 picks apart.
Yeah. And don't forget they traded down to get Duggar as well.
Yeah. Oh no, I know. They moved out of the 1st round to pick up more picks.
They picked up two good picks. I mean, so it'd be interesting.
Mike, I mean, why are they taking 2 tight ends 10 picks apart in the 3rd round? Volume play. You could
Gronk. I mean, he wasn't there anyway, but so they got that 4th round pick for him. Was it this year's 4th or next year's?
It was this year's, I believe. I think they might have moved it too.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, I think it was
I
this
don't
year.
know. I don't know if they wanted to go back to the glory days of Aaron Hernandez and Gronk. I don't know. I don't know if they plan on playing both of these kids. I mean, they picked them fairly high. The one kid is from UCLA, and Keene is from Virginia Tech. So I mean, they went to two pretty good schools. They have them rated, fairly high. I mean, they gave them decent grades, a B and a C. They're both the tight ends. They play traditional tight end positions. I mean, listen, you can't knock the Patriots. They usually draft fairly decent. I don't know much about the Lenore Ryan kid. They said he's a 4-year starter there. He's 24 years old already. So they say he's a playmaker. He's physically impressive. He runs a 4.49. So I mean, he seems like he's a pretty good kid. They're saying he's a good special teams kid. He plays safety and outside linebacker. So he'll give you something physically that way. I don't know much about, obviously I haven't really seen much about him. Playing at a small school, I haven't seen much tape on him. But I think Bill had a little PTSD from Tom leaving him. So we'll see how he hit this draft.
I didn't like the draft at all. I gave him a C+.
I have him at a C.
Yeah, nothing stands out to me. I mean, again, I'm not going to sit here and question Bill Belichick, but I'm going to sit here and question Bill Belichick. I don't.
Listen, maybe it's beneficial for them to. Maybe it's beneficial for them to go 6-10 this.
Sure.
Well, I think the thing that we need to talk about in the Patriots draft is what everybody kind of assumed their draft needs. They need to get a quarterback. There's a lot of speculation of where, some of the free agents are going to land up. Now there's all the Andy Dalton talk or Cam Newton talk. They didn't go for quarterback at all. They didn't even look at a quarterback. The way the board fell for them, they just weren't interested in a quarterback. They came out and said it. So, it was very. Is it a misstep in their draft preparation where they kind of had some of these quarterbacks pegged to go, or is it actually they're happy with what they got? So,
was there a prop on them drafting a quarterback in this draft?
I'm sure there was. I don't recall what it is.
I'm assuming there had to be a yes on a favorite.
Oh yeah, I think so.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and then they also do position drafts and rounds and stuff like that. So, it's
I was surprised.
Yeah, it's a little bit surprising.
But it doesn't surprise me that Belichick went that route.
If you look at like what Mayock does and what Belichick does, Mayock goes, give me the two teams we're in semifinals in the NCAA championship, and I'm going to take the entire draft from there.
Right.
It's not really what Belichick does. He tries to look for talent. He tries to look for people that are going to buy into the Patriot way, and he's been successful, so you can't argue it.
Yeah.
The one thing I gave them a C+. Again, I mentioned earlier, there's 3 teams in this division that actually picked. The Jets took a punter. No one mentioned about the Patriots also taking a kicker. I know the kicker is getting older, but in the 5th round, which again, for a kicker from Marshall, which I think they said he made over 85% of his kicks, but 5th round for him. So another head scratcher out of this division taking a kicker. I guess it's Gostkowski replacement, but down the road.
Well, let's really talk about it. The story isn't that they drafted a kicker. It's the kid has, controversial tattoos and stuff like that. So I'm a little
covered him up.
Yeah, he's got to cover him up. But why were they there in the first place? He didn't think they were. I don't know their excuses. So it's kind of an interesting ploy to see what they had there. So.
Yeah, he had one said one was like it looks like a lot of it had to do with like the Confederate flag and stuff. What's it look like? I don't know. I don't know what it's
again, a 5th round, way too early.
It's a symbol that is associated with some radical groups, I guess. So it's like.
Was it the people that were?
What's that?
Was it the people that were on our message board last time?
No. So I'm
the 5th round, too early.
Ryan with a good point here. So they didn't go quarterback in the draft. Again, everything here is they like Stidham. They're not going to tell you they don't. Is Andy Dalton just headed there? Is that like almost a fait accompli at this point? Is he going to be a Patriot?
I don't care if he is. The Andy Dalton to the New England stuff has been talked about for months. Okay, who cares if he's a Patriot? Really? I mean, I think it's one of these guys that Andy Dalton doesn't move the needle anywhere. Really? Yeah.
But it's something like that. Do they tank these two like Quick said and go after one of those two quarterbacks next year if they have a really, really bad year? Is that their game plan?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what their game plan is.
No,
They haven't had it for 20 years.
Let's put it this way: the AFC East is going to be an equal playing field for the first time in 20 years.
Finally.
Let's put it that way.
who's the best quarterback in the AFC East?
Sam
What's that?
Darnold.
Who's the best quarterback in the AFC East?
He might
Sam
be.
Darnold.
He might be. Now,
It's a scary thought. I mean, if you look at the quarterback situations in that entire division, you have some huge question marks. I mean, Darnold, some people like him, some people hate him. I'm kind of in between on him. Josh Allen, he does some fun things on the football field. A lot of them aren't related to being a quarterback, though. You know what I'm saying? He's more of a football player than a quarterback. Whatever goes down on Miami, if Tua gets that starting job, if not, I mean, it'll be interesting. My vote is Jarrett Stidham.
Next up, Matthew, your New York Jets.
Finally, actually, something to that at first when you guys had the
Alphabetical order from the cities, so by the division. So, it's a draft that I think is interesting because I think it's good value. Mekhi Becton was what he was. I think it was always going to be a tackle for the Jets. I think they needed to protect Sam Darnold and their investment in Sam Darnold, so they were always going to go tackle here. Mims could have been in the back of the first round receiver, and I think that's a great pick for them. Mike, I mean, actually, I'll go to Matt first here since it's your team. I mean, how do you feel coming out of this draft?
at first, like I said, watching you guys on it, talking, like I said, I wasn't high on. I was saying one of the offensive first round, but watching some of his film and Becton, which I think one or two viewers said that was the biggest bust in the first round, worst pick. But guy's 6'7", 364, and just from the limited film that I watched, the guy looks like a monster though too. So protecting Darnold is going to be key, obviously, and even the running for Bell though too. I think that was a huge pickup. They actually have a competent GM for the first time, I think, in a long time. So Mims, I know, obviously with Eagle fans and listen on the radio all week, last week and this week. I mean, yeah, like you said, he could have been back in the first round. He went to them at 59, and again, 6'3", 207. I heard he could jump through the ceiling though too. So that's huge for the Jets that have been starving for a quality receiver for a while. So that I really even Perrine in the fourth round. I watched him a little bit from Florida. I was surprised, and Mike mentioned it earlier about they picked Morgan as a backup from FIU in the fourth round. So I thought that was a little bit high, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the plan is for that. If you're going to build around Darnold, you have a quality backup or another young kid in the fourth round. So I thought that was a little bit early. And the only pick I questioned for them was I mentioned it's a sixth round, but they he has a booming leg. I know they said from Texas A&M, man, the punter though too. So, but overall, I was happy. I'm not going to be biased and say that they got an A type of draft. I'll give them the B plus. But I think I said with Joe Douglas there, I'm actually excited for the first time in a long time. Obviously, with Brady moving on, and as you guys mentioned, a level playing field. It could be an interesting year for them. I've been watching them since the early '80s. They're always frustrating to watch. The defense has been keeping them in a lot of games the past couple of years. So now we'll see if they do anything offensively with this receiver, and with the new offensive tackle to see if they could do anything. So I give them a fighting chance, as you guys mentioned. Darnold could be the best quarterback in the division, which is kind of scary, but I'm actually excited to see if the season begins on time to see what they could do. And I'm excited for the first time in a long time, instead of them being the joke and laughing stock of the NFL, to actually be competitive in the division. So,
yeah, I mean, we talked about Becton and where he was going to go, and then the tainted drug test or whatever the hell he had at Louisville. And listen, I talked about this, and Ant kind of laughed at me. And Joe Douglas coming over from the Eagles front office, and having the reins now on the Jets, draft. I thought he did a good job. Listen, Sam Darnold needed help. Jets handled it with quality prospects. First 2 rounds, they got him an offensive tackle. They got him a wide receiver, and they're both I think pretty elite level athletes. They have high ceilings. They got to get comfortable, doing what they do. Mims was at Baylor. They had a pretty good offense. Matt Rule was there. Do I think they're going to make the Super Bowl? No, they have a lot to work on. But the rest of the draft, I actually like this kid Ashton Davis. He was a walk-on at Cal, and he was a 3-year starter as a walk-on. It's pretty good at Cal.
At a major school, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Cal's not one of the better programs, but they actually had a decent year last year, and he was a pretty good athlete there. So, the rest of their draft wasn't great, but Matt brought up the punter. He was the best punter in the from Texas A&M. He was considered the best punter in the draft. Listen, if you are gonna get a punter, there's no problem with drafting a punter the last pick with your last pick in your draft. I have no problem with that. I mean, if it's going to be your punter for the next 10, 12 years. So not a problem with a 50-yard average as a punter. I give the Jets an A-. I think they had a good draft.
Tony?
The Jets, very, very interesting draft class, to be honest with you. I don't think they did a bad job. What they did is a very, very interesting job. If you look at Becton, if you look at Mims, if you look at Davis, tackle is definitely a need of theirs. Receiver is definitely a need of theirs. Safety isn't a need, but when they get rid of everybody's favorite safety, Jamal Adams, it might be an immediate need. So I think that the theme of their draft, they have some first off the bus guys. If you guys in football terms know what it means, Mekhi Becton and Denzel Mims are physically imposing at their positions. They are extremely high as far as athletically and potential upside if they can pan out. But that's the question. Potential gets a lot of coaches fired, gets a lot of GMs fired. If these two guys, if Becton becomes a great left tackle, no one will be surprised. If he completely flames out, a lot of people wouldn't be surprised either. So it'll be see how he actually develops well. The thing with Mims is separation and route tree. I don't know if he fully has all of that to be a true number 1 receiver, but he has the physical abilities to be. So you're really going for with him and Davis the same way. Davis is a track star, walked on to Cal and was one of the best players on their team. So those 3 picks, you could see where they were going. They were trying to go for the best athlete that could turn something into long-burst potential. Zanginga from Florida was an edge rusher. Low sample size, but high motor, some talent there. So I really like that. Another guy I really liked was Bryce Hall, the cornerback for Virginia. They got him in the 5th round. It seems like a lot of quarterbacks fell a little bit. He had a season-ending knee injury, so I think last year he would have been a 2nd or 3rd round pick. So I think they got really good value from him. I'm going to give their draft a B. 2 years from now, it could be an F. 2 years from now, it could be an A+. It is one of them things where you're like, this guy really. If he develops, if he hits, sky's the limit. If he fans out, if he inflames, it was just another bust.
I just hope Mims doesn't turn into and you guys could correct me who the North Carolina receiver that the Jets picked about the raw talent until he never panned out. He lasted with Jets a year or two. 2nd round from North Carolina. Can't think of his name. He was like 6'3", 6'4". He could run like a gazelle. And
how long ago was this?
Was that?
How long ago was it?
6, 7 years ago, maybe 8 years ago. He said his name. You this North Carolina receiver. They say he was a project. They drafted him 2nd round. He lasted about a year, and then he was gone. So
he had a highlight catch, didn't he? A few of them, right? And
I'm trying to think. Yeah,
Is he the one who did the between the legs catch? When
I
he was
think
at
so.
Carolina?
They were raw talent. They were high on him, and then he was dropping every ball. And when he was a pro, and he lasted a year and a half, 2 years. You typed in North Carolina bus. I just thought of it because Tony brought up. It's the guy has talented too, but he's going to be
North Carolina receiver.
wide receiver.
So I'm looking back at their receivers. Right, I'm just going to go through those. No receivers drafted. There was Mims.
Jericho Cox.
Nothing in 18.
No, it wasn't.
He went to
Cox.
NC State.
Anyways, that's I just hope they'll turn it to, because the Jets have had some really bad drafts. Or again, this is dating myself, but my dad always talked about it. I mean, the Jets drafted. I know it's way back when in hindsight, they drafted Ken O'Brien over Dan Marino. So there you go. So how much different their franchise would have been for 20 plus years? I mean, that's huge. But even Jet fans were scratching their heads way back then. So that's the scary thing. But I'm happy. I was comfortable with Douglas at the helm, and hopefully this is for long term for them to build and actually become a winner again, or at least with a winning record and move towards the playoffs and beyond. So
I don't see a high pick at receiver for them for quite a while.
I'll find it though too. If you said his name, it trust me, he was a second or third round pick, and it was not pretty, and it wasn't too long ago. So I'll find it.
Devin Smith is Ohio State. That wasn't it. Either way,
I'll find it.
It was a good draft. Again, I agree with you, Tony. It's boomer bust, and I'm okay with that. Go get superstar players if you can. Go get guys with high ceilings that can be difference makers, because if not, you can go find these guys elsewhere. So I don't really hate that. For me, I'd rather approach my draft that way to give myself the best chance of getting elite talent. So, I mean, that's just me. Any other thoughts on the Jets?
Well, they also traded down to get Mims too, so they picked up another pick, which was another benefit to them. And that's what drove Eagles fans crazy when they got hurt at that pick. And I know you guys talked about it the other night, but that's what everyone thought the Eagles were panning for to get Mims. So hopefully it turned into something big, and I guess it's to remain to be seen.
Listen, Mims helps. Mims would help the Eagles a lot more than Jalen Hurts this year. Super interesting draft out of Denver, right? So they take their first two picks and they go receiver. Judy out of Alabama and Hamler out of Penn State to go alongside Cortland Sutton, who they took last year, to go alongside Noah Fant, a tight end. Listen, they're giving Drew Lock everything he possibly could need. And if they think they have their quarterback, they're giving him everything, all the talent around him. Mike, I mean, were you kind of surprised that they went Hamler after going Judy?
Well, I mean, I wasn't really surprised that. Oh, no, I kind of was surprised. I wasn't surprised with the Judy pick, obviously. Well, I think as a whole, we were kind of surprised that with Lamb being there, they still went Judy. And we knew they were going to go wide receiver, I believe. I think all of us thought they were going to go wide receiver. Hamler, I think that they wanted. Well, let's start with Judy. Running route running. I'm sorry, is pretty good. Obviously, he's an elite wide receiver. I think it's a good fit there for him. He's obviously there. He's a wide receiver one discussion. Listen, Hamler at Penn State was good. I believe he led the FBS in drops. He does drop the football. I think he had 12 drops at Penn State. Listen, he's got 4.43 speed. He had 904 yards and 8 touchdowns. Only 20 years old, so he's gonna develop. He's gonna learn. He's a good number 3. They still have Cortland Sutton there, so Drew, like you said, Drew Lock's got the people there to throw to. But listen, is Drew Lock the guy? I believe he is. I think he learned a lot last year. Listen, he's got the moxie. He's got the makeup. I think he's a winner. It looks like he's a winner. He's got athleticism in the little bit that he played last year. Well, he played half the season last year. He didn't play the whole because he was hurt, right? Half the year.
He came in like halfway through.
Yeah, he came in like halfway through the year.
They had Joe Flacco stinks.
The rest of their picks, the cornerback, I think that they kind of reached for him a little bit. He was ranked a little bit higher. The Cushenberry pick, I kind of like that pick. He was the
Mike. It was only 5 games. I thought it was more than that. He only started 5 games last year. He went 4-1, but he only started 5 games.
Yeah. He the Cushionberry pick, I liked him. He was a center out of LSU. They took him 83rd. I liked him. He was a starting center from LSU. He was actually named the MVP of LSU, believe it or not, with Burrow there.
Well, centers are often real popular guys with teams, though.
So he graded out very well with them, but not to beat a dead horse or anything, but I actually liked Denver's draft. I really liked their first 2. I know they went wide out, but I gave him an A-.
It's just us.
All right, so you're looking at Denver's draft now. No excuses for Drew Lock, as you mentioned now. Although he does going to have to deal with a couple of wide receivers that are rookies. I mean, going into the draft, everybody's consensus for the most part, I mean, it's kind of 50-50 split between who was the best receiver, Jerry Jeudy or CeeDee Lamb. Obviously, Gruden and Mayock didn't feel that way, but that's fine. But for them to sit tight and get their number 1 target as a receiver where they're at and not have to trade up to get them or anything like that, I think that's a huge win. Because it was a huge need, and they had a choice of who they wanted there besides Ruggs, who they didn't want, obviously. So, huge grade for that. The Hamler pick, I think they might have been able to fit another need there, but he is a big fit in this offense now. I mean, he gets good separation. He has to work on his hands. So in the right system and the NBA, the NBA. I wish there was some NBA. We were talking NBA at times, but in the NFL, you're looking at guys who cornerbacks cannot put their hands on receivers at all, and he's going to be a problem. If Drew Lock could get these guys the ball, Cortland Sutton, like you mentioned, great pick. The corner from Iowa might have been a little high, seeing where other corners were drafted, but he should come in and help. I mean, they had 3 third-round picks. Now, are any of these third-round picks going to actually be starters and immediate impact players? I'm not 100% sure that. They're looking also – they're I'll just say Al, the tight end from Missouri. Receiving star for the most part, but you're looking at a kid who needs a lot to develop, and they have no Fant there, so there's not an immediate need for him to come in and throw. So we're going to see him go out there and possibly develop into something. And I feel sorry for anybody in the AFC West, to be honest with you, having to deal with Kansas City. So they have an offense of the future in place if it pans out, and we'll see if they can get it done. But it's going to be a big hill to climb.
I mean, they went 7-9 a year ago. I think if you look at teams around the league, like their arrows pointed up.
Pretty good. I like Lock.
Yeah, like if Lock's fine. I mean could they win 2 more games next year? If the Chargers are going to be down a little bit, like could this team get into second place in that division? Could this team challenge for an added playoff spot? I mean, just to be fair, yeah.
But the Raiders should be a little bit better.
Right.
A little bit better. They're not going to be great. They should be a little bit better. The Chargers should be down, but nobody's beating Kansas City in that division anyway.
No, I agree.
For this division to have 2 playoff teams, I wouldn't be as surprised because the AFC East, you're probably going to have 1 team come out of. So it's still Houston's going to take a step down. Somebody could sneak in, possibly. I mean, Steelers, another team that's going to be fighting and rebounding and getting that playoff spot. Baltimore.
I like what they're doing, though. I mean, again, they've always been a stout defense. I don't think that changes a whole lot. And now they're adding the offensive firepower. I mean, again, you're going on kids. Like maybe we're looking at this team and like thinking like 2 years and down the future. But you gotta love the direction they're going. I mean, I think that again, it all hinges on Lock.
That's exactly that's if Lock can play.
Yeah.
Correct.
I mean, listen, going down the stretch is it's not bad.
Next up, the reigning, defending, undisputed Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs. Didn't pick until 32, which is what happens when you win the whole damn thing. Took a running back out of LSU, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who everybody seems to tell me is a perfect fit for what they do. My response to that is they've had success, obviously a lot of it, without these highly drafted guys, right? You go back through the years, right? The Spencer Wares, the Kareem Hunts, even coming into this year. I mean, it's been a plug and play type thing.
Priest Holmes.
So, right. Well, what I'm saying is, like, for Andy's offense, they just won a championship, obviously, thanks mostly to their quarterback. Was there a lot of need? I don't know, but was it really that prudent to put a first-round pick into a running back?
I got a stat for you. You ready for this? The stat is that the Chiefs are returning 20 of 22 starters.
Yeah.
Okay. And, listen, I know Andy Reid. Obviously, I've seen him here for 14 years. Okay. I know who he likes to draft. I know the types of players he likes to draft. He got LaShawn McCoy for a steal in the second round. He wasn't projected as a first round pick, but coming out of Pitt, he got that guy to run his offense. He knows the type of player he's looking for. Okay. To get this kid, okay, and technically he was a first round pick. He picked him at the end of the first round. I know Brian's against running backs in the first round. I get it. But this kid is a dream fit for the Chiefs. Okay. He does everything that Andy Reid wants him to do. Brian, I don't know if you heard, 20 of 22 starters are coming back.
Yeah, no, that's
Okay.
fantastic.
And he has more value than probably any running back prospect. That he's wicked out of the backfield as a receiver. And we're not just talking about check downs and whatever. He's a legit route runner. No need to mention in between the tackles. Joking, I think he finishes as a fantasy running back 1 in this offense. I think he's going to be that good. I literally do.
Yeah.
I think it's a, but we sit here as people who mocked, and we have all the other guys, 3, 4, 5 guys mocked ahead of him. This is a guy who fits their offense that much better, though. So I thought it was a great pick for them.
And I think the word that you're looking for, Mike, and I think what everybody is, because I knew that stat you were saying about how many starters that are returning. This pick, for lack of a better term, is a luxury pick. Straight
Exactly.
luxury. They won a Super Bowl. They have all their starters come back. Andy Reid called this kid a better version of Brian Westbrook, and we know what Westbrook did while he was in Philadelphia.
Yep.
I think if Donovan McNabb didn't throw so many ground balls behind him and stuff like that, he probably would have had a few hundred more receiving yards than he ended his career with. So to say that's high praise, and they really liked him. And I think what the scheme fit is perfect because he is that type of running back that he looked. Low body build, good receiver. Excellent receiver. So is this a need? 0% need here. 0%. Right. Is it a luxury? 100%. But they're able to do that, and they with that, you can't really question it. I mean, it's somebody that's going to be fantasy relevant, and he's going to be all over the screen. But they could have had him later too if they wanted to move around, but they just decided to pick him. I do like what they did for the rest of the draft though too. I mean, Willie Gay is a really good linebacker. He moves all over the field, can make plays. The tackle from TCU, Yang, and Ladarius Sneed, the safety from La Tech. I mean, he's definitely somebody who could come in and was probably one of the biggest steals of the draft in round 4. So besides the luxury pick, which I'll give him just that of CEH, I think the last few picks they followed up with a very strong draft. I'll give him a B.
I get a B- for me.
Yeah.
Mike, I know you just jumped on. We're going over the Chiefs. Talking about, again, the Edwards-Helaire pick at the end of round 1. Your thoughts on the defending champions?
Well, a little bit of a surprise taking a running back at the first pick. But I know Clyde Edwards-Helaire, they liked him, I guess because he didn't get he's not a lot of mileage like the other guys are, not a lot of carries. But, I mean, he's still a good back. I think it was a good pick for them. Willie Gay, another pick, linebacker. The Chiefs went good on defense. I mean, which is good. Took an offensive tackle next. For the whole, I'm sure you guys all discussed this before I got on, but I give them a C for their draft.
Like I said, and Tony, you said it best. It is a luxury pick to go with a running back there. I understand the fit. The only question that I have is you've had success without having to put this pick in here. You've had success finding guys that have done well in that system in the 3rd and 4th round. So, yeah, was there a lot of need? Yeah, maybe not. You just came off a championship. But I don't know. I mean, they seem to recycle these backs. So, you're there for a year, next year you're not. This is not going to be the case with Edwards-Helaire, but again, I mean, as far as a grade goes, I had him as a B-.
Right, you're 100% that. You're 100% correct. But for some reason, Andy Reid loved this kid. And instead of trying to get cute and trade down and all kinds of stuff like that, he just took his guy who he wanted. And I have no problem with that, and I don't think anybody should really have a problem with that because they're holding the Lombardi trophy.
No. Oh, yeah.
No.
I mean, listen.
It is going to be interesting. Oh, I'm sorry. It is going to be interesting, Tony, to see what the backs are going to be in the way of carries with Damian Williams. I mean,
they split a lot last year. If you remember, Damian Williams was hurt. I mean, they had Darrell Williams. They had I forget the other kid's name, but they played like 4 different running backs last year. And to get a solid number 2 or number 1 running back, in a team returning 20 starters, why not?
When it comes to fantasy football, you never want to have you never want to have an Andy Reid running back.
No, I learned that last year by having Damian Williams sit there. So
every time you had Brian Westbrook, you always wanted to have the other guy too.
Only because he stopped at the goal line, didn't go in the end zone that one time.
John.
Do you guys realize how much that game cost me? That was the only game I was at the old stadium. I was in that end zone. And my team was phenomenal that year. I had Brian Westbrook on my team and wound up losing by 4 points because he slid in the end zone right in front of me. It was heartbreaking. And I wound up losing by 4 points, and it cost me about $3,500.
Jeez.
That's ugly. That's ugly. Next up, the Las Vegas. Oakland, no. The Las Vegas Raiders. Man, I got to tell you, this whole coronavirus is probably going to hit this team more than most. Questionable draft, guys. Questionable draft. So they take Ruggs as the first receiver off the board. I don't think anybody's,
What receiver didn't they take?
But this is true. But this is a case, and I asked this on Tuesday, where these early picks in the first round, that these teams just fell in love with a guy and they figured that's going to be our guy, and they just took him because of the virtual nature of the draft, because you couldn't bring these guys in for visits. It was just a weird year for that. So Ruggs, speedy guy off the board at 12, which worked out for my team if you like the pick. But Mike, I'll start with Velarde, Damon Arnett, out of nowhere, right? I mean, why?
This was probably one of the worst picks of the draft. This pick, a lot of people had him as a 3rd round grade. You want to talk about the ultimate boom or bust, I think, going to be of the draft. He, don't get me wrong, he played really well on the field, but he's got some maturity issues, according to a lot of the scouts. And they are taking a very, very, very big chance on this kid. This was a very, very high pick for them to take him at this pick. The Ruggs pick, I don't disagree with it. Listen, like Quig was saying earlier, Mayock and Gruden. For one thing, I listen to Mayock a lot. For those of you who don't know, Scott Graham and Mayock worked preseason games for the Eagles for like the last 3-4 years. Mayock is one of the most brilliant minds. If you ever heard him call a game, he is very in depth with video and analyzing games. He knows a lot of shit. So I don't think he doesn't know his stuff for any reason. Ruggs is going to be a talent, and I don't know what his dress code was for the draft, but wearing his white robe, and I'm sure he made a lot of money doing it. But he's going to be a talent, and with CeeDee Lamb on the board, they took the guy that they wanted to take. But with Jalen Johnson still on the board, and them taking Arnett, I don't know what they were smoking at that point. I mean, if they wanted to go cornerback at that route, I thought he was the better play at that point. And I mean, they had some questions. Lynn Bowden at that point, I don't know if that was the right pick. The Bryan Edwards pick, I didn't mind that as much. I think he's going to be okay. The wide receiver from South Carolina, even though he was their third wide out at that point, that was okay, I guess. But I give him like a C+. The Arnett pick killed their draft, in my opinion, at that point.
Tony, why so many receivers?
I think they do different things, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't love the three receivers that they picked, but they do different things. As far as Bowden is kind of that utility gadget kind of guy. Edwards is more of a physical presence out there. Complements. And Ruggs takes the top. He's going to be able to take the top off the defense. A little Ty Hill light. Listen, the Raiders make me scratch my head, and you're kind of like questioning everything that they do all the time. Talking about last year's draft when they took Clelin Ferrell at 4, they took they had 3 first-round picks. They took Clelin Ferrell, Josh Jacobs, and Jonathan Abram. Right, all 3 first-round picks. They got Max Crosby later. They got Hunter Renfrow later. Forster Moreau didn't really do much. Isaiah Johnson actually and Travion Mullen weren't bad picks. So it's like Mayock doesn't care about what other people's draft boards are. He's going out and he's getting the players that he wants. So no one said Farrell was a top 10 pick last year. He's a good NFL player. Josh Jacobs, good NFL player. You know what I'm saying? Jonathan Abram. I mean, so last year he actually wound up with a decent draft. This year, I'm looking at the guys he took. Okay, Henry Ruggs. I like Ruggs. He does what he does. Arnett. I liked Arnett too. Is he a first round player? No. Is he a late second round player? Most likely. But I do like him as a player. They didn't have a second round pick, so they went up and they just said, "Hey, we're going to get him." Tanner Muse, the safety out of Clemson, going probably a linebacker in the NFL ranks. Not a very good coverage guy, even coming from a safety. Simpson, mauling guard from Clemson, so he could run block, and then you have Merrick Robinson, and he is just that guy who is going to be a phenomenal slot corner, and he fell. So they had a lot of picks in the first 4 rounds, and
none after that. But I think value-based drafting philosophy, you throw this draft out the window and said it wasn't the greatest draft. But I think it's going to be very similar to last year's. He did get some NFL players that are going to contribute and make an impact on his football team. And, it might not matter in 2 years where these guys were picked if they actually turned out to be players. So I'm going to give him an incomplete draft grade because I think we're going to see. But value-wise,
I think it's a solid C minus, unless Robinson really turns up and can be a player in that cornerback, which I think he might be, and could be a decent draft.
Galetta, you look at the receivers from last year. So other than Darren Waller, the tight end, nobody broke 50 yards. Tyrell Williams did it actually by 1 yard. Hunter Renfrow had 600. So, obviously they needed the playmaker at receiver. They think they have that in Ruggs. At some point, I mean, three of their top 4 picks to the outside. The quarterback is still Carr for now.
Mariota.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a long-term answer to Mariota. I think Gruden wants to bring in a young guy that he can groom and be his guy and the guy he's going to fall over. And I don't think he's done that with Carr since he's been there. He hasn't been on that Carr train the whole time. I'm sure
the Carr train, Carr.
Yeah, Carr.
Yeah, honestly, I don't think. I don't think that. We say. I mean, Carr, Mariota, they're going to get the job done for a couple years. I don't think Gruden's in it. If his pick at 12 and his pick is 19, if they didn't fall in love with Jordan Love or Jalen Hurts, you don't take a quarterback this draft. There's no need for them to take a quarterback. I mean, they got – listen, do you know what Carr's completion percentage last year was? 70%.
Oh, Tony, I agree with you. I would have taken him with the Bucs in a heartbeat if they weren't going to do Brady. I would take him in a heartbeat because I think Carr's a decent quarterback for a system.
So I don't think quarterback was a need at all.
No, but I just don't think Carr's a guy that Gruden likes. I mean, more often than not, maybe next year he goes out and gets a quarterback because he has Mariota, and then he grooms the guy behind him. I mean, I just don't think Carr's going to be there. I just don't think Gruden has that love affair with him.
Yeah, but this draft isn't going to be the draft that they find that answer.
No, the quarterbacks next year are a little bit better, so maybe they can move up, grab a quarterback then. Who knows?
But do you think that the Raiders are going to be so as bad where they're going to be a top 2, in that Trevor Lawrence? So that's what I'm saying. You're kind of like almost like when you're an NBA team, you're constantly the 6th and 7th seed or whatever like that. You're kind of you either got to be really bad to get a quarterback, that's good, or you got to hit a home run in the later rounds. I
mean, they'll be probably 3/4 of the way up. They'll be in the probably 20s, maybe early 20s, to get somebody. Who knows? Is it going to be the guy for the future? I don't know. I just think, like I said, in my own opinion, I just don't think Gruden likes walking into a system where a quarterback's already there and established. He wants to bring a guy in and just try to build him up. But
I think that's safe to say for most coaches too. I mean, it's like that situation. I don't know a quarterback that Gruden does love at all. I don't think Carr's his man, and I don't think at 19 he was going to find him either.
As for their draft, I think they hit on some points. They didn't do well on some points, but I gave them a C+. The Raiders.
I'm in the C range. I mean, just again, you like Ruggs, fine. I think they thought Lamb would go ahead of them. So they said Ruggs is our guy because Lamb's not going to be there, and they said we'll just take.
The stadium looks very, very odd. That big, huge spaceship they got out there.
I was there in January. It looks like something out of Star Wars.
Oh my God! It looks crazy.
It's pretty.
Last but certainly not least, the Los Angeles Chargers. You kind of thought this was a lock that they were going to go quarterback in round 1. Nobody really believed that they were going to be, we like Tyrod Taylor. Yeah, nobody's buying what you're selling here. So they end up with Justin Herbert. Now, Galetta, you've been on Herbert for the better part of 2 years with the assumption that he could be a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. It's my understanding that the Giants had him as QB1 for a while. He's going to end up going to the Chargers. What is your take? A, do you have any disagreement with the pick? But B, can he succeed there?
No, I like the pick. I think he's got some weapons there. Some guys need to stay healthy, and you don't know what's going on with Gordon. But they got a good team there for him, and I think they're going to give the reins to him. Listen, you knew Rivers was out of there. You knew he was gone. What's that?
You talking about Melvin Gordon?
Yeah,
he's gone.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What
am I thinking? I'm sorry. But I think they're going to give the keys to the city over to Herbert, and he'll be fine there. I mean, I think he's just like kind of like Josh Allen. He needs maybe a year or two to grow, and I think he'll be fine there. As for a draft, I mean, Kenneth Murray from Oklahoma. I don't know. You guys could probably talk more about that pick than me, but they gave away a pick to New England. And they traded. New England gave them a 7. If I'm right, they gave them a 71 pick for picks 37 and 23. Or do I have that mixed up?
Off the top of my head.
They traded 37 and 71, and they got 23. They got Murray for the pick.
And they got Murray with the pick. Yeah, I don't know. Again, you guys could probably talk more about that than me. Listen, getting back to Herbert, I think he's going to be a good quarterback. I thought Josh Allen was going to be good, maybe not in his first year, but Josh Allen looks like he's coming along a little bit. He might not be, Hall of Famer, but he's going to be a good quarterback. I think the same for Herbert.
All right. I know that I think I know. I think I know that Drew wanted Tua. If that is correct. So I think that the opinion is that they settled for Justin Herbert. I am conflicted with this pick. On one hand, I think he plays the most valuable position and has a high level of tools. I think he has mobility, but I think he lacks accuracy. I think he lacks decision making. I think he lacks top quarterback prospect, in my opinion. I think he's an average starter at best. I know that might sound bad being a number 6 overall pick.
Drew checking in, answering your question.
What's that?
Drew just checked in, answered your question.
Okay.
Lawrence got actually.
Well, he's not going to get him. So,
Not now.
yeah. He's going to have some weapons. He's going to have a ceiling. He's going to have a floor. I have to ding the pick a little bit, though, because they were in striking distance of drafting Tua. They could have traded to 3 to get him. He was a better alternative. Yes, they might have had to give up a lot. They traded their starting left tackle for a guard this offseason. They go and draft a quarterback at number 6. He plays a much better position. He plays in a cleaner pocket. But when they traded up, you think that they might go after an Ezra Cleveland with that pick at number 6. But they draft an inside linebacker when they're already loaded with talent in that spot. Then they go get Kenneth Murray. He's going to be a quality starter, no doubt. And they didn't fill their biggest need, which is a left tackle, because they traded theirs, which went completely unaddressed the entire draft. They didn't even draft a left tackle because Kelly's going to operate as, they get Josh Kelly when they already have Austin Eckler, who they just re-signed. So I don't know. They kind of really didn't address anything that they really needed throughout the whole draft.
Minus a quarterback. They needed that.
They did, but I just don't think that he's – yes, Drew, I see. I see Okung injured, $12 million cap hit. I get it. But, did they address his replacement? Listen, if they really think – like I told you guys, I think I told Quig too, last year going into the year, they were talking about Herbert as the number 1 pick overall going into the draft. I mean, coming out of this, he was maybe the 3rd best quarterback going into this draft. He really didn't have a good year. And coming out of Oregon, high-flying offense, throwing the ball, slinging it all around all over the place, if they wanted him, they really could have – if they wanted to, they could have jumped ahead of the Chargers and made that push to get him. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that they kind of sat back and said, okay, we'll just take whoever falls in our lap. If they really wanted to, they jump up ahead of Miami to get him. That's kind of my opinion.
Well, listen, as far as the Chargers go, I didn't mind the Murray pick. I think that puts that, you solidify with Bosa, now Murray, and a stud in Derwin James. You have all three levels where you have a phenomenal young talent, and I think that's probably what they were looking at and doing that. Trading up to get them is fine at that, but I'm not a huge fan because they didn't address other needs with what the picks that they had left. So Joshua Kelly, listen, the Eckler-Jackson combination when Gordon was holding out last year, I had no issue with it. I thought that their running game was pretty impressive. And they did what they did. Adding an offensive tackle, a young offensive tackle, great. I mean, two receivers. I don't know if they're a team with a need of two receivers when you do have the starters of Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. They do need one receiver as far as like a slot receiver or another threat like that. So adding one receiver would be good. Two receivers, not in love with. Now, let's talk about Justin Herbert. Drew Trammell. I love the Herbert pick. Staying 6 is fine. If you believe he has the money for the future, then I'm okay with it. I don't want to trade up for a quarterback that has a history of injury problems. I agree with that, Drew. The thing that you touched on in the second sentence, though, is if you believe. Now, everything that Anthony Lynn has been saying and literally blowing Tyrod Taylor, saying he really believes in him and this, that, and the other thing, it doesn't seem like they're looking to replace him quickly. So from an organizational standpoint, it seemed like a little bit of an odd pick that they were coming out and really supporting Tyrod Taylor. From Herbert himself, as far as physically ability, everything like that, he checks all the boxes for the most part. The thing that I have an issue with, though, is he has not really improved, and he has a little bit of issues with leadership, locker room. Not a bad guy, just not sure if he's that natural leader. They did a lot of spin heading up to the draft to kind of change that perception. So he's I don't know if he's a quarterback where you just say, hey, here's our franchise quarterback, there you go. He'll sit behind Tyrod Taylor. I don't know how much he's going to learn from Taylor. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he's not he's not that typical guy who who has the same kind of game as Herbert and has a long track record in the NFL. So Jurgen is talking about the difference in the receivers they drafted. I understand that. They are different, but is that an exact need when they just left so many other holes? So yeah.
I love the Murray pick. I thought it was a really good pick where they got him. Was it necessarily a position of need? I don't necessarily think that it was, but I think he's a really, really good player. So I think that, talent matters. I think it's obviously, and I'm not making breaking news here. It's going to come down to what Justin Herbert is or isn't. And, again, could they have waited a year and tried their luck in the Trevor sweepstakes? I don't know.
They're not going to be that bad, though. I think they'll be decent.
Well, that's the thing, though. I mean, they were 5-11 team a year ago, good enough to be picking 6th, and
we're bad enough.
That's what I mean. So it's like now you have a quarterback change, and again, and this kind of goes back to Green Bay and the Love thing. I mean, if you're going to take a quarterback, play him because you only have so many years of cheap money before he gets a big deal, and then things start to get more difficult after that. It was just other than Herbert, and I like Murray, but he wasn't like the huge need. Doesn't mean he's not a good player. I gave him a B- personally. Again, it's not that I don't like their team. Josh Kelly, again, I felt was repetitive. I think you don't need another running back. I think you're fine with what you have. And the receivers. I mean, I agree with a lot of what you said there, Tony. And like I said, that's why I have him in that B- range because you needed something on your defensive line. You got nothing. You needed potentially another tight end, even though it wasn't huge, but you didn't even address that whatsoever, even in the 7th round. So the receivers were more of like, not luxury, but like that just wasn't what you needed, in my opinion. I think you're actually good there. So I gave him, I'm in the B- range. Mike Galetta.
I gave him a C+.
Velarde, any last thoughts on the Chargers?
I'm good.
Well, kids, that brings us to the end of the AFC draft grades. Another solid effort by the boys.
Can we just let's do the XFL? Let's just keep going. We'll do the XFL teams.
Michael, there is no XFL
No,
anymore.
that's right. It's gone.
I know that you enjoy that for some reason, but it is what it is.
I'm ready for my AFC Rookie of the Year,
Go for it.
Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Go ahead.
I'm starting off.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hilaire.
Could see it.
I think he's gonna have a big year. I'm taking him over Burrow.
I was gonna say that's. I mean, I think Burrow is the obvious pick. If you want to go off the board and be different, then yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I like it.
Galetta, go ahead, Bo.
No, you go. I'm still looking. I'm still contemplating here.
I think it has to be either Burrow or Hilaire. I'm going to go Jonathan Taylor, though.
Good one too.
I think he takes the reins over. I think that he takes the reins of that position over Marlon Mack. Then I also think that the difference between Damian Williams' contribution and what Hilaire is going to do is a little bit more complementary. So they might be more of a committee situation. So I give that to Taylor. But listen, if Joe Burrow comes out and is the number one pick or plays even close to the number one pick. So who was the offensive rookie of the year this year? Kyler Murray was right. He had an okay season. Not great, but
I think Miles Sanders probably should have been.
well, he came on late. But that's what I'm saying. If the number one pick has a decent year, starts enough games and everything like that, they go ahead and give him the award. It's
usually a running back. I mean, it's a running back or a quarterback, right? So
Usually
what it ends up. And I think that if a quarterback goes number one and has that year, I mean, it's Burrow's to lose, but if he drops it, it's gonna be one of those running backs.
Yeah, I was going to go a little bit off the reservation here, a little bit of a dark horse. I'm going to say Michael Pittman Jr. because I think he contemplates, or he's right there with T.Y. Hilton. He's gonna do well with him. He's going to get maybe a couple more balls thrown to him. I think he's going to have a good year. Maybe he won't be rookie of the year, but you never know. Take a little dark horse there.
I mean, defensively, if you look at the draft and you look at the players,
Baltimore looks loaded.
I mean, it starts with C.J. Henderson, right?
Oh, defensive player of the year. Okay.
I mean, it's of these players. I mean, I think the one that can make the most immediate impact is Clayton Jason, actually, or Sim. Well, yeah, in the AFC, I mean, I would say Simmons, obviously. But yeah, Jason comes in and finds a way to get double-digit sacks. I think he's gonna make some noise very quickly.
So you're doing defensive player of the year rookie?
Best year, like who are we talking about? 12 months from now, as we go into next year's draft, who are we saying, wow, look at that, look how great that pick hit? I think it's Chase.
All right. Give me a second here to figure somebody out. Did everybody else go?
No.
All right,
we're looking as well.
Don't be jump ahead of me.
Velarde.
I'll go Patrick Queen. I think Patrick Queen in Baltimore is going to have a really good year.
Got a lot around him, for sure.
Yeah, he'll step in and make a ton of tackles. That's that's a good one. Who did you have, Velarde?
Nobody yet.
So who'd you have? Atard.
He says C.J. Anderson.
I went with Chason.
Oh, Chason. Okay.
Chason. Patrick Queen, solid.
Mike, you met C.J. Henderson. C.J. Anderson was the running back.
What did I say, Anderson?
Yeah.
Jesus.
I do a lot of shows with you, Mike. I know you like to.
It's unbelievable. I know what I meant to say, and I say it.
I'm surprised at your pick, Rod, because
I was correcting you.
Brian, I'm
gonna
really surprised in your pick because you like Epinensa so much that I thought you might, be leaning that
No,
way.
I do, but it's Epineza where he went that's awesome. Like that's where you do well in drafts is you don't try to overthink it. You take those guys that fall to you. Cowboys did that at every pick, I feel. And they went and they got the guy who's going to be a good fit for them. Trayvon Diggs was their backup plan if Chason went in the first round. So how could you let it fall to you?
I gotcha. I will go with I just have him here. Grant Delpit.
There you go.
I think if Cleveland Browns have a pulse in the playoffs, live up to a lot of their hype, the offense is going to get a lot of attention, but I think for them to do anything, it's going to have to come from their defense. And Delpit might be the difference in that secondary. I'm not a huge fan of him. I'm not super high on him, but I think it could just be a perfect storm of success, team success, and player ability.
Well, you think about it too. I mean, if he ends up on the same side of the field as Denzel Ward and they play well together, I mean, that's going to be very hard on number one defenses. Greedy Williams, Mike, I know somebody you liked last year, but you always wanted help at that position. That's not.
Yeah, I needed a secondary.
Yeah. So I think it kind of depends. I mean, they're building a nice secondary there. They're just the coaching is just a disaster. They got to figure that out. I mean, I know they just signed somebody, but anyway. So that's all we got tonight. Our next show, Mike, is going to be a little puck talk.
Yeah, Tuesday. Jason Martinez comes on. 97.5 host in Philadelphia. He's got his own podcast, Flyers Daily. Talk a little hockey. Should be a good time. Should be interesting.
I didn't give my personal.
Oh, sorry, Mike.
TJ Hushmanzada. Oh, was that the wrong year? Oh, my bad. Christian Fulton.
Okay.
I was thinking of him, Mike. I was thinking of him too.
They fall in the good spots. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah. Immediate impact players on teams that should be pretty good. I mean, I think, that's the key. I think, Galetta, myself, and Velarde kind of fell that pattern. I don't know if Jaguars going to be a good team, but.
Yeah, but I think he has the opportunity to be an absolute star there. I liked him a lot. Again, is that
me and you very different on Chase? And I think he could be a solid player, but I see zero star potential in him.
You're picking a third team. That's why, Brian T.
Okay. I like it. We'll see what happens. I thought it was going to be a good pick for my team. I think it could be a good pick for them. So easy there. So on behalf of the boys, thanks for watching, everybody. We appreciate that. And if you're a hockey fan, we'll see you on Tuesday. I know that we're also working on a crossover show with our friends over at All Everything Entertainment. I think it's Thursday of next week. And then the week after that, another special guest is coming on Tuesday. So it'll be a lot of fun. So make sure you join us. Make sure you like the page, follow the page. I'll throw up my banner. It still says NFC. I don't really care. There's all our socials, so make sure you're following us. Thank you for joining us, and take care, boys.
Peace.
Later.
All right, gentlemen.